What's going on, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. TGI double F. Thank gosh it's a football Friday. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start here on this September 8th. Dan Kasper Show is on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also, check us out at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app, and of course, the video stream up and rolling. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. What do we got on the game plan here this morning? We finally get to preview a game that matters. A game that matters. Packers Bears. We're going to get to that. The NFL season kicked off last night. Chiefs falling to the Lions 21-20. Travis Kelce did not play in the game. Pick six by rookie Brian Branch. And the Lions, team that's a lot of people, the majority, picking to win the NFC North, starting their season off with a win in Arrowhead. So, got to be feeling pretty good if you're a Lions fan. Tom, if you're across the pond here this morning listening, got to imagine you're feeling pretty good about the start of your season with your Lions there. But good start there. And the rest will kick off. Well, not all of them, but the majority will kick off on Sunday because we got Monday Night Football coming up there too. But nonetheless, Packers, Bears, we're going to preview it. We're going to talk about it. I want your predictions for this game, people. Okay, don't hold anything back. Don't hold anything back. Give me your predictions going up against the Chicago Bears. All right, hit me up on Twitter, DAN KASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Text it to us on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Who you riding with? You going with the green and gold? You going to go with the Bears? I want to hear from you, okay? We're going to hit this up coming up here in just a little bit. Also, we got some college football to be talking about. Badgers taking on Washington State at Washington State tomorrow. Give me your predictions for that one, too. All right. We're going to go through a whole lot of picks today. We got pick segments back on this TGI double F. So give me your Packers and your Badger football predictions. I want to hear from you. Are you nervous? Are you a little bit nervous going up against Washington State? We saw them last year in Camp Randall. Or are you of the mindset that new staff, a lot of new players, and even the guys that are still there from last year, hopefully they remember that, and that's kind of a motivating thing for them? Are you on a scale of 1 to 10 a little concerned against Washington State, or they're like, nah, come on. Last year was just a poo-poo year, so I don't really factor too much into that. Where's your mindset heading into that game? So we'll hit that up as well. Big baseball weekend that starts tonight for the Brewers. Hey, the Brewers didn't even play last night, and they increased their lead in the division against the Cubs. Thank you, Diamondbacks. But the Diamondbacks picking up a win, and now the Brewers up 2 games over the Chicago Cubs for first place in the division. But you got a Yankees team that's playing better as of late. Brewers struggling here a little bit as of late. I mean, they did win that series against Philly, but dropped the series against Pittsburgh and dropped that series against the Cubs before the series against Philly. So you got Colin Ray, who's set to get the start for the Brewers. Then you got Wade Miley on Saturday. And then Corbin Burns going up against Cole on Sunday. Ooh, that could be a pretty good pitching matchup. But the grind starts right now for the Brew Crew because they ain't getting an off day until the 25th. Okay? Straight up games. You got this 3-game series against the Yanks. Then you're going to be home here for a week. 4 games against Miami, which could be, well, that could be a really big one there too, because Miami in that trying to get a wild card spot. Washington next weekend. Then Crew hit the road for their last road trip of the regular season. It's going to be a long one, too. So they're going to be at home Monday through Sunday. Then they're going to be on the road the following week, Monday through Sunday. Then they finish up the regular season Tuesday through Sunday. So 23 games left to go here for the Crew. 23 to go. They're sitting at 77 and 62. 77 and 62. So we'll talk some Brewers, especially with our guy, Mr. Brandon Berg, when he hops in. We'll catch up on some of the local stuff. Another week of high school football. Got a boatload of games coming up tonight. I know we've gotten some other sports underway. Tennis, soccer is going underway. Volleyball is going underway. Cross country. So we'll get the lowdown from Mr. Brandon Berg coming up next hour. Well, when he joined us right before Brandon's on with us, we'll be catching up with Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, a little inside the training room session. So we'll get to that at about 7:05 this morning. Plus, we got our Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight we'll hit up. And then cream of the crop. I want you to participate with us in our cream of the crop. We'll hit the cream of the crop probably in the top of the 8 o'clock hour there. But who's your cream of the crop from the past week or so? All right. So think about that for a little bit. You got some time. You got some time to think about that. But if you got one, hit me up with that text, tweet, or Facebook message or comment on the video stream over there. All right. So, but hey, let's jump into it right away. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to talk some games that matter and previewing this, taking a look at it, talking some predictions, all that fun stuff. So let's get at it, baby. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. Let's talk some football. Packers, Bears, kicking off the season Sunday. If you haven't, I know I've been asking for the last couple of days here, but if you haven't gotten me your season predictions yet for the Packers or for the rest of the regular season, I know some of you sent them over for last night's kickoff special at Hy-Vee. Big thanks to everybody who stopped by or tuned in, by the way. But if you haven't gotten me your predictions yet, now's the time because they don't count after the week one's done with, after Sunday and Monday. They don't count anymore. I'm not allowing it. But I'm curious to get where everybody's thoughts are at for this Packer season and this game going up against Chicago. All right, you got two quarterbacks with kind of a lot on the line for this year, right? I think two quarterbacks, two franchises wanting to maybe solidify that these are going to be their starters for the future. Jordan Love still up in the air. A lot of assumptions, and I tend to agree with this, that this is a put-up year for Justin Fields. Got to go out there and prove it, like a prove-it year for Justin Fields, that he has to go out there and prove that he is the man, that he is the long-term starter here for the Bears. They acquired DJ Moore and gave him a nice outside weapon. They got Chase Claypool last year too. But this is, I think, when you look at both these quarterbacks, this is a big year for both of them to kind of prove that, hey, we belong in this league and we belong to be starting quarterbacks in this league. And they start off the season going up against each other right away. And next time we see Bears and Packers, the final game of the regular season. So was Bears week, even though it kind of didn't feel like Bears week because I feel like there was just so much else going on and it's the early part of the season. But yeah, Bears week 1, then we won't see them again till week 18. But let's get at it. I'm pumped. It's a TGI double F. Thank gosh it's a football Friday. First break. Let's break it all down. Prediction time for the Packers. How you feeling about this game? Key players. Give me some key players and key matchups. got some time, if you haven't made your picks on our pro football weekly pick'em challenge up at our website, football51.com. Obviously, you won't get credit for last night's game. Although I was checking the leaderboard early just to see if how many people picked the Lions. Yeah, we got a good group there that picked the Lions. So it's just one, all right, just one. If you haven't had a chance yet to make those picks, you better go and do it right now. Sports.1051.com. Click on that win tab and pick. All right, do it quick. Takes it quick. It's an easy sign up. So should be a lot of fun to watch. We got a good group. Got a lot of people that signed up. So big thanks to everybody who has already signed up. We got some prizes we're going to be giving away and such. But we all know it's because you want the break, right? Cool. We'll trash talk back and forth because why not? So, all right, let's get the opening drive underway here. Man, it feels good to be talking about an actual game coming up here, previewing it. But how excited, Packers fans, are you for this season? All right. I think we actually really asked that question. How excited are you for this particular season, the new era under Jordan Love? A lot of new guys on this team, the youngest team in the NFL. How excited are you for this season? Kind of talking about, off and on. Like I've mentioned that I'm excited for like different reasons. And then I get excited for every time a new season starts up in the sports world. Opening day, baseball, tip off for the hoops for the Bucks and such, and then kickoff officially started last night, but Green Bay kicking off on Sunday. I mean, I get excited every year, but for Green Bay in particular, this is kind of a new excitement for me. And I know Surveyor, our good buddy, Rugby Insider Surveyor Sam, had texted in yesterday saying this is the most he's been excited maybe ever. But tell me how excited you are, and is there a particular reason why you're really excited for this year? Maybe it's just simply because you love football, you live and breathe football, you love the Packers, and that's why, and that can be it. But for me, it's like a different kind of excitement, and I kind of touched on it off and on, but it's because big, huge unknown for me. It could be a really, really bad season, and that would stink. That obviously would suck. You lose a bunch of games. Nobody wants to see their team lose a bunch of games unless maybe you are the Cardinals and you want that number one overall pick or whatever. I don't know. But for the most part, nobody wants to see their team lose a boatload of games, right? But it's the unknown heading into this season. It's a new era. I'm a Rodgers guy. I It's gonna be different not watching 12 out there, just like it was different not watching 4 out there for the longest time. It's gonna be weird, it's gonna be different. You kinda knew what to expect when Rodgers was out there. You always had, at least for me, I was always of the mindset that as long as 12 is suited up and he's on the field, it should be Super Bowl expectation every single year. And that put a little added extra stress on everything, right? I mean, because you're living and breathing through every play, every snap. You're just kind of like on the edge of your seat that whole time because there was that expectation. There was that kind of pressure. And I'm sure they felt it over in Green Bay and such, but like as a fan, you were just almost like living and breathing with every play out there because you had high expectations. As long as Rodgers was quarterback, it was, at least in my mindset, Super Bowl or bust. You have a quarterback at that level, it should be Super Bowl. That's the goal at hand. That's the goal. My expectations are different this year for Green Bay. I'll admit it's probably a little less stressful at least right now, and maybe just because I've set the bar a little bit lower. I'm not really expecting a Super Bowl for Green Bay this year, but I mean, come on now, I'm not going to be disappointed if they go out there and surprise everybody and win a bunch of games and get to the bowl and win it. I mean, come on, that would be awesome. You're still going to cheer for them to go 17-0 for crying out and, make a run through the postseason. But I guess, just kinda looking at it from the outside, my expectations are a little bit lower, this year. Maybe it'll be a little less stressful, at least initially, unless it goes really, really, really bad right away. But I'm excited because it's big thing for me, it's an unknown. I don't know what Jordan Love's gonna do, and for some, that might be a stressful situation heading into the season because you don't know what to expect from 10, or maybe you're just down on Jordan Love to begin with. Everybody's gonna be different. Everybody's gonna have a different thought on this upcoming season. And for me personally, I'm still excited. Some may be down because Rodgers isn't there, and some may be down because that there isn't a at least from all of us, the outside, I'm sure it's different within 1265 Lombardi Avenue, but, maybe some are down because those high expectations aren't necessarily there for Green Bay, so you already have it in your mind like, "Yeah, they ain't gonna do anything this year." But I'm excited to see the youngsters kinda grow together. Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Watson, Dobbs. By the way, Romeo Dobbs returned to practice yesterday in a limited fashion, so hopefully ready to go on Sunday. We'll find a little bit more about Watson later today if he's able to do anything or not. But excited to see this offense all grow together. These young guys grow together. It's a very unique makeup of this ball club, I think, because they are the based off average year youngest team in the NFL, but they got an Aaron Jones veteran. They got a Bakhtiari. Jair, has been around for a few years. They've Rasul Douglas, Devondre Campbell. They got a Kenny Clark. They got a mixture of those guys up there. But again, it's a lot of young dudes that are going to be asked to play significant playing time right away. And this team looks faster, looks more athletic. I'm excited about that. And really, I'm excited to see a new offense. A different I should say new offense, a little bit of a different offense. I thought it was, when we talked to Rob Domofsky from ESPN yesterday, and if you missed that conversation, go check it out on the latest episode of the Man Cave podcast. But, we asked him, or I asked him about, the Matt LaFleur, and LaFleur's kinda downplayed it, and as Rob said, LaFleur doesn't like talking about it, but we all assume it's gonna be a little bit of a different offense, and Rob's got an article coming out, today, and he teased it a little bit for us, but the numbers show, the last few years, Green Bay didn't throw middle of the field, and when he asked LaFleur about that, it kinda caught LaFleur by surprise and said, "Yeah, that's mostly, a lot of us parts of our offense, what we wanna do is throw over the middle of the field." So, again, it kinda goes back in the hand of, like, alright, Aaron Rodgers, common theme there. So, now you bring in a Luke Musgrave, a big, fast tight end to go over the middle. You got, like, a Jaden Reed, kind of a slot type of receiver. Maybe we'll see a little bit more attacking the middle of the field. But there's that excitement for me is to see, because I keep going in my head, it's like, can we see an offense like what Shanahan runs with the 49ers? And I wouldn't say the defense. I'm more like on the defensive side of things here for me with this team. I'm more of the mindset of like, you got to go out and do it now. I mean, I'm kind of tired of always having these expectations for this defense, looking for consistent improvement. You can't have a slow start like you did last year and ride on like, oh, well, at least we finished, on a high note. Good. Pick up where you left off. You can't start off slow. You can't do it, especially with this team. No, can't do it. That puts the pressure on as the players, but also Joe Barry. So, Joe Barry and a lot of the coordinators yesterday talked, and Joe Barry said, I think if you stay the same, talking about his defense and comparing it to now to where it was last year, I think if you stay the same, You get passed by, the 2023 Green Bay Packers is going to be completely different than the 2022 Packers. There's no doubt. By the way, I thought there was maybe kind of a telling quote from offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich about Josh Nijman yesterday. Maybe there's something, maybe there isn't. But Stenavich said yesterday, right now he's a backup tackle for us. That's where he's at. And football is a very competitive sport. And some guys rise to that competition and some guys don't. So that's basically what I have to say about that. Huh. I mean, to me, that's not necessarily a glowing endorsement of Yash. And maybe there's some disappointment there from the coaches who expected him to win that right tackle starting spot. I don't know. Maybe they feel like he didn't take another step this year. I mean, he essentially, he got bypassed as the backup left tackle. So, and then, I thought, okay, Yash is probably going to be the starting left tackle for next year. Walker's going to be that guy now. But I thought that was kind of a telling. Maybe offensive coordinator Stedham kind of calling out Yash a little bit yesterday. So, all right. But I'm excited. I'm excited for the season. A lot of unknowns. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of overreactions come Monday morning, depending on what's going to happen with this game. Could go one way or the other. So I'm embracing for it. No doubt about it. All right. So looking at this matchup, Chicago, Green Bay in Chicago here. You got some players. You got some key players. G-Man came in with a key player, A.J. Dillon. Packers will win 30-20. Go Pack, go! Go Bucky will win Saturday 27-13. Brewers will win 6-2 tonight, and Brewers will sweep. It was fun last night. For me, it's Super Bowl win this year. So looking at this matchup, looking at this, we talked about, two quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Jordan Love, who are under, I think, a big spotlight under the microscope for both their franchises to see whether they are going to be the long-term starters for this. Justin Fields, kind of a put-up, shut-up year. Jordan Love might get another year on there, but you want to see, signs that that he can be that guy, that long-term starter. So there's a lot of, I think, excitement, nerves, unknowns surrounding both franchises, both fan bases with their quarterbacks heading into the season. I look at this game, and who knows about the receiving, who's going to be out there for Green Bay, if Romeo's going to be out there, if Christian Watson's going to be out there. If those guys aren't, or even if one of them's out, yes, it makes the job of Jordan Love a little bit more difficult. I feel like Romeo, if I had to pick between one of the two that I would really like to have, I feel like Love and Romeo have a good connection, but I want both of them out there. So, but anyways, it's going to be tough for Jordan Love because, he's got Jaden Reed's a rookie, and I'm really high on Jaden Reed. He's going to be a factor right away. Malik Heath might be a factor right away. But I think, too, that's what, when you have these injuries pop up for these wide receivers, this is where, again, I go back to what kind of offense are we going to see from Matt LaFleur? If we're going to see the style of offense that Matt LaFleur wants to run, then it's about scheming to get guys open. And I think Jordan Love is going to play within that style of offense more than perhaps what Rodgers did over the years. I mean, we always talked about trust with Aaron Rodgers. Heck, Randall Cobb talked about it in Hard Knocks. Told the other guys, Rodgers doesn't trust you. He ain't going to throw it to you. I'm sure every quarterback has a certain level of trust with the receivers, but I feel like, at least in Jordan Love's case, and maybe within this particular offense now, you can scheme guys a little bit more open. Utilize that offensive scheme to help get guys open. But looking at Love for this game and for the first few weeks of the season, I think it's pretty evident teams are going to go into this, going to go up against Jordan Love, and they're going to put pressure on him right away. They're going to bring the blitz. They're going to attack him. They're going to go after him. They're going to make him uncomfortable. Try to make him uncomfortable. Try to get him to see some ghosts. Bring that pressure. So it's going to be huge for the offensive line and running backs, tight ends, whoever's going to be in blocking. It's going to be huge for them to be, doing their job, hitting their assignments, communication on blocking assignments. All that's going to have to be on cue right away, week one, because I just have this feeling Matt Eberflus is going to dial up some pressures for the Bears and to go out there and say, all right, Jordan, prove it to us. You can beat us because we're going to attack you. We're going to load up the box, bringing in an extra defender, maybe an 8-man box. We're going to key in on stopping the run of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. We're going to look at that, and we want you to beat us, especially if their wide receivers are dinged up in this game. It's going to be a tough task right away, right? It's going to be a tough task for you. But what's kind of been a common theme that we've also heard about Jordan Love throughout training camp, throughout preseason, and it's the guy doesn't get flustered. Now, could be completely different when we get to a regular season game as opposed to, the preseason games and training camp. We saw some drives in preseason where things weren't going good. And how did they always, it's just kind of how it worked out. Green Bay kind of bounced back, scoring drive, then Jordan Love leads the game. But how, those were what, a quarter in some of these games? If it's frustrating for 3/4 of the game, is he still going to be able to, not let it get to him, not get flustered if things aren't going right for the first couple quarters or first half of this game? I honestly feel the Bears are going to try to attack Love right away. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you bring pressure, load up the box? And, a way to take away some of that pressure, keeping them honest a little bit, have success running the football. Have some success running that football too. I think that's going to be a key thing in this game for Green Bay is how can they handle that pressure? How can Jordan Love handle that pressure, that offensive line, and can they establish the running game and stay with it? Matt LaFleur, and he might have to be a little creative right away in week one, especially if some receivers are going to be out. We might have to see some new packages and such. Who are your players to watch in this game? Who are your players to watch? Who do you think is set up to have themselves maybe a game? I like to kind of call it he's gonna have a day or he's gotta have a day sort of thing. So who do you got? Let me know. Start hitting me up with some of those texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. All right. 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break. We'll get back to some more predictions, all that fun stuff after these few words. Don't forget, this Sunday morning, 10 a.m., we are launching our own first-time Packer pregame show. You can take a listen at 105.1 FM, 790 AM, or at sportstalk1051.com. Check it out over there, the app in your Google and Alexa home devices as well. So 10 a.m. Sunday, we'll be launching our 1 hour Packer pregame show. So make sure you're tuning in Sunday morning. All right. See how that goes. Hopefully you all will enjoy it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. But excited to get going with that for the football season. All right. What else we got? Also, a week from today. So a week from today, wanna pass this along. We got Kegs and Eggs is back, but you got the Oktoberfest that's going to be going on and such, or in Chippewa Falls. But we're going to be at Blue Marble Pub next Friday, the 15th. What I'm going to be doing there, so it's about 10 to 1, Blue Marble Pub. They're going to be doing some breakfast and such, but we'll be over there after the show on Friday morning. We're going to do a live episode of the Man Cave podcast on site. So, plus, going to buy you a beer over there too. Going to buy you a beer. So, if you got nothing going on Friday, mid morning, such, 10 a.m., starting kind of at 10 a.m., going to 1 p.m., stop on by. We'll do a live episode of the Man Cave podcast, getting ready for Oktoberfest, and heck, even buy you a beer if you show up too. So stop by, say hi if you want. But that's a week from today. 10 a.m. Blue Marble Pub, Chippewa Falls. So put that on the calendar, baby. All right. Let's finish up this hour, continuing to talk a little more football here. We got Living a Dream, Jeff. Good morning, Dan. I am 100% stoked for this season. That a boy. I'm excited to see the development of all the younger players. I believe we will see a true LaFleur offense. I hope the defensive scheme will be more aggressive than last year, at least for Barry's own good. I don't think they'll be any worse than they were last year. I'm calling 10 wins, baby. That a boy. Go Pack Go, living the dream. Also saying Jones should have a key in running and catching the rock as a safety valve for Love. I agree. Also, the defensive front needs to contain and stop the run. I think whoever is shadowing Fields will have a big day. I agree. That's where I kind of look at a guy that has to have himself a game is Quay Walker. I look at Quay Walker now. You know, you got Quay, you got Devondre Campbell, inside linebackers over there. I look at a guy like Quay Walker who has to have himself a game. He's got to have a game. He's got to have a day. Because if he is that guy that's going to shadow Fields, or if he is that guy that's going to kind of patrol the middle, you know, if you got pressure on Fields, not allow him to step up and scramble for big yards, or if he can hit the outside, you know, the edge, if there's a little bit of an over pursue, get to that sideline to sideline. I'm looking at the guy like Quay Walker who has to go and have himself a big day. Got to have a big day, I think, for that defense to, you know, if Justin Fields is going to take that step this year, if he's going to be a guy and, you know, a top quarterback. I've been seeing that a lot lately. I know we've been seeing a lot of takes in the last week or so getting ready for the football season, but now I'm even seeing takes that Justin Fields is going to take the step and be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. Well, if he is going to be that guy this year, that puts on, I think, puts more pressure on a guy like Quay Walker to go out there and kind of prove that, you know what, he could be a top tier inside linebacker. You heard Rob again, Domofsky, yesterday talk about Quay Walker and where he thinks, you know, Quay Walker could be, you know, a main stalwart on that defense for years to come for the Packers. So I look at a guy like Quay Walker, got to have a day. You know, a guy who I think is gonna have a day that I think if I had to make just one, and really he could be in that category of like, well, he's got to have a day too. But I'm gonna go Jaden Reed. Now I've been high on Jaden Reed all preseason and such, and I know I picked him in one of our Green and Gold Chalk Talk videos. I picked him, you know, to be the rookie that has the biggest impact this year alone. But you know, with the unknown surrounding Watson and Dobbs, I think Dobbs plays. But I just think Jaden Reed is set to have himself a game because I think you're gonna see more attacking the middle of the field. Now, I was going back and forth between Reed and Musgrave on this, to be honest with you. I was going back and forth with that. But I think you're gonna see Green Bay try to attack the middle of the field, especially if they're gonna bring more pressure. Like, if they're gonna bring more pressure, up the middle or something like that, I think you really have to attack that middle of the field. So that's a guy that's maybe lined up in a slot or a tight end. So, I was going back and forth between Musgrave and Reed. I think it could be either or one of those guys, but I might go Reed here a little bit. And maybe we see Reed doing, maybe involved in a jet sweep or something like that. But I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if we see Reed lined up in the backfield at times, running passing routes out of the backfield. Remember, we saw that a little bit a while ago with when Randall Cobb was in his kind of prime, if you will. We even saw Devontae Adams doing it a couple times, or even lining up in the backfield and then you motion out to try to create a mismatch a little bit. But if I had to pick one, and I was going back and forth between Musgrave and Reed, I'm gonna go Reed, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Musgrave. And that's, let's be real too. That's putting a lot on a rookie for their first game to already say that's going to be a dude that's going to have a day, that he's going to have a big day. I mean, that's asking a lot, and it's kind of putting the pressure on right away, and it's setting the bar kind of high, But I'm looking at this too, like, man, I really feel like the Bears are going to do all they can to slow down Aaron Jones and slow down AJ Dillon and stop that run. Unknown about Watson and Romeo. So who's got to be that guy, or who's going to be that guy that's going to benefit from that stuff? And I kept going back to either Reed or Musgrave, and might go a little bit with Reed here because I think Musgrave too is going to draw so much attention just because of his athletic traits, his physical traits that he brings to the table. I mean, you're talking what, 6'5", 6'6" tight end who's got speed. He's going to draw attention, whether it's double coverage or whether it's a safety and a linebacker or whatever. He's going to draw attention. And I just kept going back. Does that benefit a guy like a Jaden Reed? And I think it kind of does. So those are my picks. Player that's got to stand out, got to have a day is Quay Walker. Guy that's gonna have a day is my pick. Putting a lot of pressure on him right away, but I'm gonna go Jaden Reed on there. So what do you got? We got some more picks, predictions coming in here. We got Packers do make the postseason as a wild card. I'll go with 9 wins. That looks like that's from Eric on the Shoe Doctors texting line here. Scott's going with, I think the Packers squeak out a victory this weekend against the Bears. I'll go with a score of 27-24. GPG. Go, Pack, go over there. So another text here. This is from Chris. I'm going to go with the Packers in this game, but it's going to be a tight, low-scoring, sloppy game, kind of like last night. I'll go 2017 Packers. I do feel like it's going to be kind of a sloppy game. Maybe you can call it. Some people might call it a defensive battle. I kind of feel like maybe it's at times going to be a little sloppy from the offensive side of things. A little up and down, a little inconsistent, might be a little frustrating at times, but it is week one. A lot of new parts, a lot of young guys in there. Might be some butterflies for those younger guys until, they kind of get in the flow of the game and take their first hit or make their first catch or make their first tackle, that sort of stuff. So it's going to be some butterflies for a lot of these guys. But as soon as those butterflies, kind of go away, now it's go time. Now we dial in, baby. And we go. This is from Travis. He's picking a Bears win. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm gonna go with the Bears 27-17. All right, keep these coming. All right, hit me up with a text 715-830-1912 or find me on Twitter DanKasper, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Okay. Got some more coming in right now. We got Dave. He's also going with the Packers in a low-scoring game. Really slow-scoring game, 13-10. The Packers for this one. That's a low-scoring one. Hey, never know. We've seen those before, right? We've seen those before. So, all right, coming up next hour, we'll catch up with Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Then right after that, we'll catch up with Brandon Berg, sports editor, Chippewa Herald. We'll catch up on all the local stuff going on. Another week of high school football is upon us. Also, volleyball, soccer, tennis, cross country, all that's going on. Plus, we'll get to some Brewers chat with Brandon as well. 23 games left to go in the regular season for the Crew, and they begin a 3-game series against the Yankees in New York, a New York team that's been playing better as of late. So we'll talk to Brandon about that. Brewers did increase their lead in the division last night without even playing a game. Thank you, Arizona, for taking down the Cubs. So with 23 games left to go here, Brewers are up 2 in the division right now. All right, we'll finish up this first hour with Morgan. Good morning.
All geared up. Now, where would you say your anxiety lies on the Packer game's sliding scale? 1, you're cool. 5, you're going to barf.
Oh, no, I'm not going to barf.
You get pretty worked up.
I'm a different level of excitement this year.
So it's excitement more than nerves.
Oh, yeah.
So you got your text coming in. What's the spread right now? Who's going where?
Surprisingly, majority are going with Green Bay. About 3-point game, 4-point game, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
so about a few
and your
game.
call was 27.
I went. What did I go with?
27-17. What did you go with?
What was it? What did I go with last night? G-Man, was it 23-17? I think Packers.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Yeah. Thank you, G-Man. If I could relegate all the questions in my life to G-Man too.
Yeah.
Hey, when's my mortgage payment due, G-Man? Let me know. I want to put all my life.
I don't know if
all my life responsibilities into G-Man's corner too.
I mean, he will double your 401k with predicting a Packers Super Bowl.
Hey, I believe that. That'd be a nice bet to lay. Did you know that Kentucky just started sports betting this week too? They opened up sports betting. They're one of the first. So do you get into formal betting?
That one's weird with Kentucky Derby that they finally did.
I know, isn't that weird? But it just became legal this week. Bashir laid a bet. They were actually at the Downs tracks to lay the first official legal bet in the state. Do you do legal betting, or do you just kind of throw it under the table with your friends and do that kind of thing?
Nope.
No. Would you though go sports betting?
No.
Stakes are too high, or just?
I know I probably would get too involved.
Oh, and then start having to follow them, and then you would get fixated.
Or I just go back to the days when I worked at a gas station and the crossword lottery tickets.
Yep.
You get into a couple, are like, okay, I know a big one's coming.
Oh,
so I'm like,
so you can't start even picking at the scab for gambling tendencies, because then you start thinking the next one's going to hit the next.
Yep.
That's how the city of Vegas exists in the middle of a desert, because everybody's got the next one's going to hit mentality.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with it. I think I could do well with it, but I don't want to go down that avenue.
Okay, so is there a game that you would play if you're not going to go sports betting? Is there a weakness? Is there an Achilles heel on this strip that you would definitely jump in? If it's not sports betting? Yeah. Are you a poker guy? Are you a slots guy?
I'll do blackjack.
Blackjack 21.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably where I would want to at the dealer tables.
Yep. That's where I would go.
All right, so Friday, we're going to shake it up a little bit, get your mind off the Packers game. Of course, that's what most people are counting down to now. But quick answer reactions on basic sentences. So we're going to go, all right, Kasper, something you need to build a house.
Hammer.
Something you say when you're getting gas.
Why does it cost so much?
/beep for radio edit. Yeah, I noticed that too. Gas going up, by the way, again, if you're in the valley. Just going to warn you. Something you buy at a drugstore.
Allergy meds.
Something you do when you're washing the car.
Put soap in the bucket.
Are you a hand wash guy, or are you a car wash guy?
Car wash guy.
Okay,
although I hate doing it because it costs so much.
Yeah,
but I don't have the time to.
You're not going to sit and hose out and then do it by hand.
No.
What about Hudson? Make him do it.
He actually does. He takes a squirt bottle and does that.
Are you a everyday on a schedule, clean your car kind of guy?
No, but my truck does need to be cleaned right now.
You know who I admire, and I got this newfound respect for auto detailers? Man, one of the signs of adulthood, like low-grade adulthood, has been like, I kind of want to keep my car clean, which was never my thing. I used to live out of my car when I was younger.
Yeah.
And now that I try to keep it clean, There are so many little crevices and nooks and dirty little crannies in the
Yeah,
car. Detailers are my hero. There's nothing better than a freshly detailed
I
vehicle.
agree.
That is like life's pleasure
'Cause
right
you
there.
find that French fry from a Happy Meal from 2 years ago under there somewhere.
I know. Well, at least then I know what I'm serving for
Yeah.
supper that night. Say something that
Mhm.
you say when you need to erase a mistake. What do you go for? Are you whiteout guy, eraser guy, a rip it up and start over, shred the paper
I
kind of
usually
guy?
rip it up and start it over.
You're just back from the start?
Yeah.
Are you one of those kids who would like start a project in art and if you weren't happy with it, just completely crumple up the whole thing and go
Yep.
back to base one?
Yep. Or even like recording audio. I
Yeah?
don't cut it out. I just start all over.
You go back from the beginning. You're a
Mhm.
square one kind of guy.
I am. Yep.
All right.
Look at that.
Well, give us the call then. Packers this weekend? All right.
Yep.
7.5 million pounds from this past June. Total production in July reached 291.7 million pounds as national cheese production followed the same trend, losing about 8 million pounds from June to July. California is number 2 in cheese production, making about 90 million pounds less than Wisconsin in July. Idaho ranked 3rd, New Mexico now 4th. That's a look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution lets you attract candidates and even conduct virtual interviews. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
Crank it up. Hey! Are you ready to take? Tee it up. He's on his way. He's our man. The man, the myth, the legend. That's Dan. And now, the Dan Kasper Show.
All right, second hour on this TGI Double F Day. Thank gosh it's Football Friday. Coming up here, we're going to catch up with Mr. Brandon Berg. Also, another week of the high school football season. Lots going on in the fall prep season. We'll get an update from Brandon here on how everything's going there. We got the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight coming at you. Cream of the crop. We're going to get to some baseball talk here as well, with Brewers starting a big series against the Yankees. Surveyor Sam texting, I predict that with 3 minutes left in the game with the Packers up 20-17, Jordan Love rushes in for 22 yards out and scores the dagger touchdown. As he is celebrating with his team, he looks at the Chicago crowd and just says, I now own you. Packers 27, Bears 17. B's mom. Packers win 20-14. Also record of 10-7. Key to win is, I think, tight ends. And hey, Brewers get 2 from the Yankees. Have a great weekend. Well, you have a fantastic weekend yourself, B's mom. And big thank you, B just dropped off the thing for Hudson too. So, all right, it is time for a little inside the training room.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow.
You better call me a doctor.
On the Dan Kasper Show.
Somebody give me a doctor.
All right, let's bring him in. He's Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Happy start to the NFL season, Austin. Are you geared up for your Vikings team this year?
Absolutely.
Attaboy. Hey, I'll just give you a little bit of tease. I picked them to win the NFC North. I hate to admit that, but I did.
You're a smart man. Smart man.
You're the only one that's probably telling me that right now. So, hey, let's. So I want to go back to a couple days ago. We were chatting a little bit on Twitter. So there was a video from Albert Breer for Sports Illustrated, and he was talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, the wide receiver for the Patriots, and he made an interesting comment where he said it was kind of talking about Juju Smith-Schuster's knee and said that it could explode at any minute there. I mean, that seems to be kind of a, I don't know, graphic detail to say like his knee could like explode. Like I immediately thought, and I tweeted this at you, like Paul Walker from Varsity Blues when his knee goes completely, out there. When you hear something like that, what kind of goes through your mind? And I know he's a media guy and not a doctor essentially, but when you hear something like that, what goes through your mind?
Well, I mean, first off, I think there's a bit of sensationalism. I mean, you kind of look at it and there's no real facts given. He just kind of discussing, the knee is just kind of quote ready to explode, which, I think the inference is that it probably got a partial ligament injury or something that's like, that they're saying could be damaged further at the drop of a hat, if you will. And there are injuries like that where we have people who have who have like a partial injury to one of the ligaments, or maybe a cartilage injury that doesn't look that bad now, but we think may get worse later. We're worried about rapid progression. But to be honest with you, I mean, there's not really many scenarios where we're treating someone where we're just like worried that the leg is gonna all of a sudden just fall apart on us. So I do think it's a bit of sensationalism. It certainly grabs some headlines, but it's hard to say exactly what he's alluding to. And Juju seems to think that he's fine and kind of made some rebuttals that she doesn't think it's a big deal. But obviously there must be some concern on some level though.
Right. Is it? I mean, my thought was like, okay, is he talking like an ACL or something like that? But is it? Can you tell if somebody's about ready to tear an ACL or anything like that?
No, I mean, the only, with the exception of partial injuries. So, I mean, there's certain ligaments in the body that just don't do a great job of healing, and the ACL is one of them. So, in the knee, there's several different ligaments, and of the main four, the ACL is the only one that really doesn't have a great healing potential. So if you have a partial injury, you probably have a partial injury for life. And so it doesn't really, and there's some debate on that, but, there might be a little bit, but if you have a partial tear, you may have, I guess, a ticking time bomb in the kind of parlance of this discussion. So I think that in this situation, maybe that's what they're alluding to, is like, you get a partial ACL. It doesn't have a great chance of healing. If it's holding on now, I mean, really it boils down to this. On examination, so we'll get MRIs back on an athlete that has an injury. It's read as a partial tear. We look at it. There's some fibers intact. It's always hard to say exactly what percent. I mean, we tried guess, but let's just throw out a number of 50%. You examine the knee, it feels stable. The athlete's back running on it, feels stable. You're not going to reconstruct that person. You don't want to do surgery with someone that feels good. But in the back of your mind, do you think that that patient may have an increased elevated risk, if you will, of injuring it again? I think so. So that probably is what they're alluding to. But again, there's no real specifics mentioned, so it's a little bit of guesswork.
Kelsey sticking with knee injuries. He did not play in the game because what they're calling a bone bruise, or he hyperextended his knee earlier in the week, and kind of similar to the Giannis injury, I would imagine a couple of years ago in the postseason. But maybe kind of a refresher, because it almost seems little. I don't know if contradictory is the right word. So you hyperextend your knee, which is that like extending the ligaments or the tissues in there, but also how does hyperextending a knee cause a bone bruise, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So when the knee goes into hyperextension, so in other words, like your knee goes straight, we call that extension. When it goes past that, it's called hyperextension. So when that happens, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to tear ligaments. Most commonly, the hyperextension injury will be an ACL injury, which I think everyone was very worried about at first. If the ligaments hold, they basically act like a fulcrum, and the front of the knee will get pinched together. So then you basically impact the distal femur, which is the thigh bone, into the front of the tibia, the shin bone. And you get a very classic bone bruise pattern. It's going to be the distal femur right in the front. We see this pretty commonly. So, we'll see a knee, and honestly, they really will mimic an ACL in a lot of ways. So often the knee gets very swollen. It's very painful. And so you see an athlete comes in and says, I hyperextend my knee, it's swollen, it's painful. The first thing in your head is like, oh no, this is an ACL. But then the ACL looks good at MRI and is solid. And what happened is the ligament held and the bones just hit each other hard. Now, like all injuries, it's always a huge spectrum on severity. But I mean, a bad bone bruise is a nasty injury. I mean, there are people who are, you saw him walk on the sidelines yesterday, and he looked like he's walking pretty well. So his is probably on the mend. But I've had patients who've been on crutches for 3-4 weeks with a bone bruise.
Oh, wow.
It's that painful. It can be, the next step is you actually break the bone, and that can happen too. So there are people who hyperextend, the ligament holds, and they hit the bone hard enough where they break either the distal femur or the proximal tibia. And so that can happen. So, that's obviously the extreme of that spectrum, is that you hit hard enough to break the bone, but he clearly isn't there. But it's, again, enough where he didn't feel like he wanted to plan it and felt that he wasn't ready to go. And so it can be, again, one of those things that, with that hyperextension injury, you see usually go one of those two ways. And lucky for him, it's a bone bruise, and he should bounce back nicely.
It almost sounds like, too, like when you say bone bruise, it doesn't kind of tell the whole story, because, it's like, oh, it's just a bruise, sort of thing. It almost like it doesn't do it justice, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. That's often when I tell patients that. So after this kind of injury, you come in, you tell them it's a bone bruise. They're like, no, my knee hurts way more than a bruise. I'm like, yeah, we use that term, bony contusion is the technical term that we'll use, or, it really, again, it can be such a spectrum. And the thing on top of it is when you hit the bone hard, what's covering that bone is cartilage. And that's the one thing you can see is late cartilage injuries present. So someone who has a bone bruise and they come back at month 3, month 6 and say, my knee's starting to hurt more, swelling. and they'll actually slough some cartilage where they have that severe bone bruise. We see that. It's not common, but it can happen. So that would be something to keep an eye on if he starts having problems later this season. But hopefully he doesn't run into that issue. But yeah, I mean, to your point, a bone bruise it's like turf toe. It doesn't sound that bad. It's a legit injury.
Mm-hmm.
Bone bruises, they don't sound that bad. Trust me, that can be. I mean, weeks, and frankly, I've seen it months occasionally. And so it's a legit injury for sure.
Absolutely. He's Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning for Inside the Training Room. And I know we talked about it last week, but I want to bring it up again because a few days ago we found out Cooper Kupp, who's been dealing with a hamstring injury, actually was in Minneapolis, seeing a specialist based off of these hamstring injuries. And I know Packers fans now are a little concerned with hamstring injuries because of Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs right now.
Yeah.
But, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, last week, but, seeing a specialist for hamstring injuries, this is something Cooper Kupp has been dealing with for a while now too. I mean, could it just be, bad luck, or is there something potentially maybe going on with Cooper Kupp that this is something that he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his career?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we've discussed this distinction a couple times, is the difference between injuries to the muscle belly and the muscle tendon junction versus an actual tendon injury. And I'm starting to wonder if he's dealing more with a tendon injury. I don't know who we saw. My suspicion would be Dr. Chris Larson. He's actually the team doctor for the Vikings. He's a specialist around the hip. And my guess is that he may be dealing with an injury to the proximal hamstring tendon. So that is the big hamstring insertion it's called the ischial tuberosity. It's the butt bone. It's like when you feel your butt, that bony knob back there, that's called the ischial tuberosity. That's where that comes from. I mean, because really, hamstring, if you're talking muscle and muscular tendon injuries, I mean, you can have some chronicity to that, but this just doesn't really happen that often. And so I think it's where we're starting to look more likely this may be a tendon-based injury as opposed to a muscle-based injury. And so that does change things quite a bit. So there are people that have partial tears to those that do end up going on and getting surgery. And so, again, that's my suspicions that he saw Dr. Larson to evaluate for that. But it's hard to say definitively. And, to your point, the assumption is that your guys' injuries are going to be more the classic, hamstring muscle injury, because those are a dime a dozen. We see those a lot. Now, not those that are fun to deal with, and don't get me wrong, making me legitimate, but generally people bounce back. Generally it goes away. And, muscle doesn't heal completely normal. There's always some residual scar tissue. So there are patients who will get recurrent hamstring injuries. So that is possible. That's what Cooper Kupp's dealing with. But given the timeline and how it's presented, I'm starting to wonder more if it's a tendon-based injury.
Man, and that would, if it's a tendon-based, potentially like surgery long-term out in that too?
Yeah, I mean, if you got that repaired, it's going to be, I would suspect, most of the season, if not all the season.
Wow.
But I know that there's been no leaks of that. And usually there's always like surgery was discussed, right? Things leak. So, maybe this is just a muscle-based injury, and which is hopefully what it is, because that really just almost always goes away. Not to say it's fun or easy, but it just the way it's acting, it's starting to make you say, well, what's the real story here?
Exactly, man. That would stink for Cooper Kupp, no doubt about it too. Usually I think some people kind of get surprised too. You mentioned that doctor, if he is the team doctor for the Vikings, and it's like, well, why would the Vikings let the Rams, do that? But I mean, because I think James Andrew is the Washington team doctor too, and he's like the ACL guy, right?
He's correct. Yep. He's ACL, does a lot of elbow and shoulder. He did Drew Brees' shoulder. That's one of the kind of big ones that thrust him onto the forefront because Drew Brees had that shoulder dislocation and had a tear, a complete tear, so what we call 360 tear of the labrum, and he fixed it and got back to a Hall of Fame career. So, there is a ton of that, and that's a whole discussion in of itself of pro athletes, their agents, seeing different physicians, and a lot of times they're going from one expert to the other. Now there are people who do have a niche. I mean, like Bob Anderson, ankle. Jimmy Andrews is going to be probably some knee stuff, shoulder, elbow. Certainly, he's very well known for. Neil Eltrash out in LA. I mean, there's some guys that are big names that, at the end of the day, truthfully, I mean, I think a lot of us surgeons look at it and say, I could do a lot of the same things they do, but they've just kind of garnered that, I would say, almost celebrity status within the orthopedic and then in the sports community. So they kind of get that draw, but they'll pull people in. I mean, there are people, I promise you, that are, pro athletes that we'll see in consultation, these team physicians that work with multiple teams. or athletes from multiple teams, I should say. So yeah, there's a fair amount of that quote doctor shopping.
Yeah, no doubt. Last question for you. I wanted to ask you because Jamal Adams, the safety for Seattle, last year he tore his left quad, but he's sounds like he's not going to be playing here this week. So I mean, tearing your left quad, being out for over a year. Just, I mean, it sounds like that's a very serious injury. At same timeline as almost an ACL. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean that's a big injury, and it really takes a while for that to heal. Not only heal, but to actually get the muscle to bounce back. Because of course, after we repair it, we have to shut the leg down for a while. And quad atrophy is certainly something that really can take a while to bounce back from. In other words, when the muscle kind of wilts away, and those guys aren't trying to get back to just walking, right? They're trying to play a sport at the highest level. So they're holding him back. I mean, I will say that timeline does surprise me a bit. You'd expect him to be back truthfully, but whether they feel like he's not had return to the muscle function, or you occasionally get people who have some tendon issues. And, just to kind of on the Cooper Kupp discussion, I mean, a tendon-based injury, those are always a little bit harder to deal with than a muscle-based injury. So, he may have some recurrent tendonitis where the repair site was, or maybe it didn't fully heal correctly. Those are all possibilities, but usually you'd see someone back sooner than this time point. So it does again make me think maybe there's a little more going on, but it could just be a slow recovery with a guy trying to get back to that high level and not wanting to go back until he gets there.
Interesting. He's Dr. Crow. All right, so before I let you go, give me your Super Bowl prediction for this year.
Whew, man, I would on the AFC side. Chiefs are hard to go against. They obviously didn't look great last night. I watched most of that game. The lowly Detroit Lions, although maybe they're not so lowly anymore, knocked them off. But I think, I still think that they're going to be, when they get all the pieces back, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. Coming from the NFC side, as much as I want to say the Vikings, I don't think I can be that much of a homer. So I think we could see a rematch. I mean, I guess Eagles, Chiefs. I guess I'm unoriginal, but I think those are two teams that look like they're going to be playing really well, good ball on all three phases. So I guess that's what I throw out there.
That's not a bad pick, man. Well, enjoy the games this weekend, buddy. Appreciate the time as always, sir. Love chatting with you, and we'll catch up again soon. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it. There you go. He's Dr. Crow inside the training room. Good stuff as always. We'll take a quick break here, and then another Vikings fan who's wearing his Vikings stuff, Brandon Berg. All right. Reminder, tomorrow, card collecting clubs got their kickoff event. We talked to Brian yesterday morning about it, but it's officially going to be here. The kickoff, sports cards kickoff for kids at the VFW on Star Avenue, September 9th, tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Free event for the kiddos, goodie bags at the door for the kids, too. And don't forget, you've got the silent auction for the adults. A lot of good stuff up there, too. So I really hope we have a lot of people watching the video stream right now to see how Brandon looks right now, because I think you've got your new thing. Every time you're on the air, you've got to wear sunglasses now,
I don't know.
so-
This is kind of messing with my eyes a little bit.
You look good, though.
Well, that's what's important, I guess.
You look good. So I'm proud of you. Keep it
There
up.
were just the sunglasses
love
sitting
when
on this desk, so I picked them up and put them on.
I love when I like come in like on a Monday, or this case it was a Tuesday, and there's just random crap sitting in here. Remember the radio that was just sitting in here? Finally, I
Yeah.
just put it out somewhere. I don't know whose it was or where it came from. I don't know whose those are. Just sitting in here for the longest time.
So I'm wearing them right now.
But hopefully there was nothing wrong with them. Hopefully you don't get, like a weird disease.
Like an eye parasite or something.
Yeah. That'd be weird. But you
It
look
would.
good. You need to get some aviators, I think.
I just need to get some sunglasses, period.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause obviously I wear glasses, so
Yeah.
I need to get like some prescription ones.
You look good though, man. I think you got your new what do you call it? Look or
Thing
sort of thing? Sort of thing.
sort of thing.
All right, Brandon. So I know it's been you were busy last night, busy week. What are we, week 4 already
Yeah.
with the football season here too? Kind of going back there too, and for some of the games last week, and we mentioned it earlier, but shout out North,
Mhm.
right? First win against Memorial since 2008. So we were kind of talking about them. Now they're 2-1
Yeah.
on the season. So that was a big win. Again, congrats to the Huskies.
They had this Superior tonight, I believe, so a chance to possibly be 3-1 by the time they host Chi next week. So yeah,
Mhm.
no, they're that's a program that's kind of been on the upswing, and I think you've kind of seen tangible steps forward here the last few years, and being able to beat Memorial, which, like you said, that didn't happen since we were in college, which that says something.
Yeah.
That says that's been a little bit, but to
Yep.
go out and kind of do it the way they did it, obviously shows that program's on the rise.
Absolutely. Some of the other results from last week, anything kind of stand out to you, or what were the games that were kind of the big? I can't take you serious with these. You just look like you're so serious too. But any of the other games from last week that you want to highlight?
I mean, I was at DeRay Field for McDowell and Thorpe. That was a game McDowell picked up a 30-20 win over.
Was that a little bit of an upset, kind of? I
Um,
mean,
Maybe a little. I mean, Thorpe was the top ranked team in the latest Swiss Sports state poll. I think McDowell was 9th. So,
okay.
I guess, but I mean, I wouldn't consider it a big one,
Mhm.
but maybe. But I mean, I would say it was a big win for McDowell because, last year the Max in the regular season were 6-2. Their 2 losses were to Thorpe and Owen Withy. I mean, Thorpe and Owen Withy last year were really good teams, and they're really good teams again this year. So I think that was more for them, just a win to kind of, definitely have them, I think, maybe on a little bit more on the statewide,
Mhm.
uh, view, I guess, so to speak.
Right.
Because
Kind of
we-
announce themselves to the rest
I
of the
guess
state
a little bit, yeah,
but-
maybe that's the way to say it. But now McDowell goes and plays Owen Withy tonight in Owen, so that's they have 2 games back to back. You go from one tough game to another,
Mhm.
and kind of in a different way. So I think that was one that stuck out. Hudson holding off Chi for a 13-8 win in Big River's play was, that's always, it seems like in recent years those games have been close when those two teams have got together, and last week was no exception either. So in the Clover Belt, Stanley Boyd overcoming a halftime deficit to beat Fall Creek, and Stanley Boyd, a bit like McDowell, goes from one big game to another because now they host Mondovi, who's unbeaten.
Mm.
So, and Mondovi state ranked, so that should be a really good one over in Stanley for the Orioles and the Buffaloes.
Yeah. Is Chi High Menominee tonight? Is that
Chi Menominee is tonight.
that's
That is where I'm going to be. It's just DeRay Field.
It's because what Chi High does really cool is the veterans.
Yeah, it's their
thing tonight,
Veterans
right?
Appreciation Night,
Mhm.
where if you're a veteran and for admission, you get a chance to be acknowledged on the field before the game. Like, they do different kind of fundraisers to help with like homeless veterans. They're also starting a warm clothing drive, which goes on all through. I mean, pretty
Mhm.
much the rest of the year. Like at any of their games, you'll see a big bin out front of Dre Field where the entrance is, and you can drop off kind of newer, gently used, basically anything warm weather stuff.
Mhm.
Long johns, hoodies,
Right.
personal hygiene products, that kind of stuff too. But
Mhm.
they've been doing this for more than a decade now. It's really cool to see how it's kind of grown.
Yeah.
And they really go all out for it. Like there's always some really unique, fun things that are there that you're probably not going to see many other places, and it's something that you're kind of seeing other schools start to do too, and that's a good thing. I mean, that's
Mhm.
ideally it's something pretty everyone would do, but
Right.
it's just something that's kind of picking up steam, and it's something that's really important to the program too.
And it seems like, and I'm sure there's other ones, but it really seems like Chi High overall, a lot of their athletic departments do stuff like this, like their
Yes.
teams. I know their basketball teams has helped out with like Festival of Toys and that, but it really seems like that's kind of one of their pillars,
Right,
if you
right.
will.
I mean, just in general, I think that athletic department and the coaches and the players and always want to try to help out, kind of service for the community wise,
Mhm.
and they different teams do different things. And I know like the boys hockey team will do they'll at Christmas time they'll be ringing the bell for donations
Mhm.
at businesses and stuff like that. So they all do different things, but they're all things that help someone in some way or another. And you're right. I think that is something that is important to them.
Mhm. Now, is Chi High and Menominee both
Nope,
undefeated? No?
nope.
Okay.
Menominee's 3-0, Chai's 1-2.
Okay.
Chai's had a couple close defeats.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see how this one goes because Chai's defense has done a really good job through the first 3 weeks, especially for a defense that's pretty much all new players. And the offense, I think, took a step forward week. I mean, Chippewa Falls outgained Hudson. They like doubled them up in yardage and first downs, and just couldn't quite get in the end zone.
Mhm.
So talking with Chai coach Chuck Rakovic, he mentioned that they're really close, and sometimes for a young team that's hard to see. For the players themselves, the coaches see it because they've been doing this long enough that they can kind of tell, like, okay, we feel like we're close, but it's just
Right.
it takes that breakthrough performance. It's one of those things like you don't, you can't kind of breathe a little bit until it happens, but
Mhm.
it's going to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, you have a Menominee team that is 3-0. That's defensively is playing really well. Offensively is doing a really good job of kind of mixing the run and the pass together. And that's a Menominee team that last year kind of took its lumps a little bit when it played a lot of underclassmen, and this year they're kind of starting to see the benefit of that.
All right. Believe Memorial, they got New
I believe so. And New
Richmond.
Richmond
Yeah.
is another really impressive team in the Big Rivers
Mhm.
right now, picking up the win last week over River Falls. And those are two teams that are going to be in that contention for the top half of the conference. So
Mhm.
New Richmond's a team that's now they've been back in the Big Rivers for several years now, and they're they're very well acclimated. They at one point New Richmond tried to jump into the Big Rivers, I think around like 2000, and it just didn't go well. Like they weren't very competitive.
Mhm.
But now that area is continuing to sprout up. Like they're much better prepared. And you look across the board in all the sports, and New Richmond is very competitive.
Mhm. Then any other games kind of on the docket that have your attention here? We got 8-man. I know we kind of
Yep,
chatted
I
about a
mentioned
little bit there too. So
trying to think offhand. I mean, Thorpe has a, they're going to be back in action tonight against New Auburn.
okay.
That's a New Auburn team that picked up its first win last week and is, I think a much improved team from last year. So that's going to be an interesting test for Thorpe because New Auburn is such a big physical team.
Mhm.
I think that kind of might be an example of you got one team that's big and physical. And Thorpe can be big and physical too, especially with the running back Logan Hansen. But they're also a team that likes to spread you out and kind of get out on the perimeter because they got some really good athletes too. So be kind of a bit of a styles clash there, but I think that could ultimately lead to a good game.
I know Regis is going up against Durand, Arkansas.
Yep.
This one, which I mean, next week could be a good one there too. You got Regis versus Fall Creek.
Yeah, that
For
could be
the
a bit of
15th
that could
one.
be another bit of a styles clash too, because
Yeah.
Regis is the the double wing and kind of pack it in.
Mhm.
So far this year, a bit of a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of team.
Mhm.
But in Fall Creek, I mean, they want to spread out. They've really found something with kind of going to that spread offense,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that could be kind of one of those
Look
styles makes fights.
look at this stretch. Not to get deep dive down here and look too far ahead, but just because I have it up here. So next week for Regis, Fall Creek at Fall Creek, home against Mondovi, which you just talked
They're
about,
unbeaten right now.
and then on the road against Stanley. That's 3 straight games right there.
That's. I mean, you're gonna have to play all those teams anyway in the conference, but to play them in a row is interesting. And I know a few weeks ago after Regis beat Bloomer, talking with Regis coach Brian Brenner, he mentioned that, remember they started the year with a pretty lopsided loss, especially by their standards to Prescott.
Prescott, yeah.
And he mentioned that, over the last few years, they've had, so many great teams and athletes roll through that. I think people sometimes just kind of assume like, well, it's going to be easy because at times they've made it look easy, but it's not easy. It's never easy. You look at a team, even if they're, 9-0, like it's not easy just because they've won all their games.
Right.
And that, right now they've kind of starting to find their identity, which was, a little bit more maybe methodical on offense. You're not going to have guys breaking off 80-yard runs almost every play, seemingly like the last few years. And it just takes a little bit to kind of, figure that out. But he really thought that team was kind of starting to figure it out. And then they came back and opened conference play last week with a solid win over Elk Mound. So you're right though. That's a tough stretch there for for any team, but especially getting those three teams right in a row because they're all a little bit different too.
Right.
And that's tough when you're playing really good teams, but they all do something a little different. We mentioned Fall Creek spread. Stanley Boyd is kind of a spreadish team too, but they're so up tempo. Like they're as good as any team I've seen at moving fast. And then you've got Mondovi, who is they'll get in the trenches and play with you, which is why I think that Stanley Boyd Mondovi matchup is so interesting tonight because you have, I think, two different types of teams, but also teams that can defend different styles too. It's not like they're, one trick pony, so to speak. They can do different things and they can defend different things, which is what makes that matchup at Oriole Park so interesting.
Absolutely. To kind of wrap it up, but looking at the other stuff, I know volleyball for Jai High, they defeated Hudson. Was it last night?
Yes, that's where I was last night. They picked up a straight set win over Hudson. A good bounce back for Jai High after a week ago on Thursday. They went to River Falls. They won the first two sets, but then River Falls rallied for a 5-set win. So that and that's Chai is in an interesting spot because they returned so much from the team that went to state last year, but your teams are never the same. You can bring back everybody one year to the next, for example, but that team's not going to be the exact same thing. Things changed, and that's kind of the interesting with Chippewa early on is they're really trying a bunch of different things. They have athletes in different spots, kind of trying them to do new things and challenging them to do new things because they think ultimately that's going to make them kind of a better team. The more you can do, the tougher it is to beat you, and that's kind of the way they're looking at it right now. And so they're kind of using this first part of the year as a way to kind of do a bunch of different things, and so that way when push comes to shove at the end of the year, they can say, okay, well, this is what we know we do best, as opposed to just assuming which I think is kind of a smart thing to do.
Sticking with volleyball, but I know it was a couple days ago you talked a little bit in your latest article too about Cornell volleyball over there too.
That's where I was Tuesday. They picked up a win in 4 sets over Birchwood. Cornell, the 3-time East Lakeland Conference champions, looking to go 4 in a row. And I was able to put together a story kind of talking with some of the seniors on that team because obviously if they're seniors and you're 3-time conference champions, obviously that means all throughout your
math tells
career,
me
math. I'm not great at math, but I understand that math. But So
just really quick, that's, I don't know, because you were in the same profession. We had Rob Domofsky on yesterday, and I was asking him math questions. He's like, this is why I got into journalism.
Right. Oh, no, and that's something I've always said, too. Like, one of the reasons I like doing what I do is because I love sports math. Like, I can, figuring out, like, someone's ERA or whatever. But when it's just, like, other stuff, I struggle.
Yeah.
But with Cornell going for their 4th straight conference title, and I was talking with the seniors on the team about kind of just that, going for that. And they said, there's pressure on that. Like every time they're going out there right now, like they know they're going to be getting the absolute best shot they've got from whoever they play. And Tuesday night, that was Birchwood. And, coming up here a little bit later on in the year, that's going to be the Lake Holcombs and the Flambeaus of the world. So, I just thought that was really kind of interesting. And that the fact that one time before, Cornell has won 3 conference titles in a row. I think it was 1978 through 80 when they were in the Western Clover Belt. And so I thought that was just kind of interesting to kind of talk to them about that. And they were very open, and I thought it gave some really, really good kind of responses to, kind of how they've got to that point and what they're looking to achieve.
Yeah, good stuff. That's check it out at Chippewa.com. We got soccer, I know, going on, cross country. Everything's kind of under full swing right now.
Yeah, cross country last night over at the Stanley Boyd Invite, the McDonald boys and the Cadet girls won the team championships over there. But I believe tomorrow Menominee hosts a big cross country meet over in Menominee. A lot of the Big River schools, I'm sure, will be there for that. We're the Chai boys soccer team picked up its first win of the season last night. So there's just yeah, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, the month of September, especially once you get past Labor Day,
Yeah.
I mean, it's full steam ahead.
Hmm. Everybody's back in school, so you can kind of do that too.
Yep, a
So
little bit more of a standard schedule. Those couple of weeks before kind of school gets underway are always a little bit weird because you've got sports that are underway, but
hmm
you got like morning tennis and like early afternoon for some
right.
stuff, and now you're getting to that more firm schedule for
Hmm.
sports, which is I'm sure if you're a fan, it's a little bit easier because you kind of know what to expect.
Right. And I know, speaking of soccer, Memorial and Hudson had a tie yesterday too
A lot
over
of
here
a
at
lot
Memorial.
of
So
high profile battles for those programs over the years, and
hmm
this year may. I mean, that was the first one. That's probably not going to be the last one.
right, exactly. So and I know, kind of tennis wise too. Altoona is doing really good at tennis right now. I think the other day they defeated Regis to stay undefeated so
Yeah,
far this year too. So good program going on over there.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. And then, Blue Golds wise, remember football after coming off of a big win last week. They're going to be on the road this week, going down to Iowa at College. So get to the Blue Golds there. I know they've got golf going on, women's volleyball going up against number 18, Gustavus Adolphus, too. So if you want to check out, and then men's soccer coming up on the 9th there, number 1, University of Chicago. University of Chicago. So if you want to know more or hear a little bit more about some Blue Golds, don't forget Rolling with the Golds podcast available on your favorite podcasting platforms and at sportstalk1051.com. Our guest on that one was the new baseball coach, Coach Riley, longtime Winona State assistant, and now going to be the new man over here. Took a little too much there. You took him off, man.
It's messing with it's weird because it's messing with my eyes more than when I'm just not wearing them.
Yeah.
Like because I wear glasses, but I can have my glasses off and still be like fine if I'm
So
like
those
doing.
are kind of some weird sunglasses right now. There's
Yeah,
something maybe
I
that's why
think
they
it's
left them here.
maybe like the tint is a little weird.
Huh.
Like yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to do the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight, and then we'll talk some baseball before we get back to some football, plus Brandon's, and then my predictions, playoff predictions, Super Bowl champs, and all that fun stuff. We got college football going on yet too, week 2. Time for the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight. Brandon and I actually agreed on this one. How
We
about
did.
that?
Yeah, he asked me, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too. And we mentioned him a little earlier, the aforementioned Eau Claire football team.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking the long skid against the rival Old Abes with a 14-7 win at Carson last Friday. Big night on the ground for Cameron Olson, 141 yards. Peyton McCracken, 100 yards through the air and a touchdown. We talked about it earlier, but just to be able to, to get that win, like kind of build off of, a couple competitive efforts, one ending in the victory in the non-conference, season against the lacrosse schools. Like I think, Eau Claire North, I think is definitely kind of a team that's, starting to climb up, and I know they're definitely getting on the radar for some other teams as far as like, hey, this is a team that you gotta keep an eye out on now.
Right, and as you kind of mentioned too, Superior, but then Chi High next week for between North and Chi High,
yes,
right?
that's at Carson. So
at Carson,
yeah,
so.
they're it's gonna be interesting. I think these next few weeks will tell you a lot too there, because even if you split those, then suddenly you're 2-1 in conference. You're feeling pretty good again. Get your third win somehow. But yeah, that's a good way to start the conference season. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. All right, before we get back to some more football talk in the final hour here, we still got baseball season going on. Brewers. Well, it's going to be tight. Hey, they actually improved their lead without playing last night.
They did.
Thank you, Arizona, for that. Arizona defeating the Cubs last night. So Brewers up 2 in this division, but not the same Yankees team from a couple weeks ago, is it, Brandon? They're playing better right now, this Yankees team. So
they are. They've got some of their younger guys now kind of up playing, and they're giving them the opportunity. And yeah, you can't even say at this point anything is going to be easy, because, well, I don't know. We feel like whenever we see a stretch where we're like, oh, that should be easy for the schedule. Well, it usually doesn't go well for the Brewers. So, but yeah, going into Yankee Stadium, it's not, at this point, there's no gimmies, there's no 1 foot putts, there's no nothing. You just got to go out there every day and just try to knock off wins and hope you get a little help.
Think we'll see Donaldson?
I don't. And I had said last Friday I thought it was possible. I don't think in this series. Maybe when they get home now, because I do believe that they got him for the purpose of getting him to the majors. Like I think that they thought, like, okay, well, because he hasn't played in a little while, like AAA is almost a formality.
Right.
But the first few games for him, like it's been okay, but it hasn't been like he's going out there and hit 5 home runs. So I think they, especially when you've had that much time off, you really want to make sure that someone's feeling good. So next Monday they start a 7-game homestand with the Marlins and the Nationals. So maybe sometime during that.
Yeah, 23 games left to go here too. So
the Brewers are are finishing up their second to last road trip of the regular season.
That's right, and right now it's going to be a grind because they don't have an off day till the 25th.
Right.
And I was kind of looking at that. So after this road series, they're at home from Monday to Tuesday. Then they're on the road from Monday to Sunday. Then they're on the road from Monday to Sunday, and then they're finishing up at home from Tuesday to Sunday. So you got long stretches there. They're not quick 3 games here and there.
No, we've seen in the past sometimes like these September schedules that you'll have. Like I remember maybe it was 2018, but where it seemed like they almost had like every Thursday off.
Right.
And it's obviously there's a little bit more you can do, especially back then when you had the up to 40-man rosters for this month of September. But there's just it's still I like it in that it's still a pretty accurate reflection of the rest of the season. It doesn't feel like September is its own separate thing because of you don't have massive rosters. You don't have all these extra days off where you can kind of do some things you wouldn't be doing elsewise. So I do like that because I still think it's pretty true to, what we've seen March through August.
Right. Colin Ray is getting the start tonight. Then you got Wade Miley. Then you got Corbin Burns going up against Cole. And I know wins and losses for pitchers. I mean, we look at the quality starts, but it's been since July since Corbin Burns was credited with a win. And he's had some quality starts.
He's had some starts where he hasn't gotten some run support, but if ever there's a time for him to get a few runs.
Yeah. Going up against Garrett Cole in that too. So, but Freddie Peralta, I know had a hiccup the other day, but I mean, I don't really fault Freddie though too, because you start off the game with a 3-run shot against the Pirates, and then you still lose the game.
Right. It's just, and that's, the Brewers aren't a big home run hitting team, but it does seem like that. They just,
I think it was it since August 20th, I think was the number, or maybe it was the 28th The little nugget that the Brewers haven't scored in more than 2 innings, like 2 separate innings since that day.
Yeah, they've
Like
been reliant on the big inning.
right, yeah, and it's like, "Oh,
Can't do
Lord."
yeah,
you know?
that's not a sustainable form of success. So, offense. I mean, this is going to be the conversation the rest of the year. The Brewers are going to go
Yeah.
as the offense goes. Like I think we all know that when they had that the hot stretch, it's because they were scoring runs. Like when
Mhm.
they're winning games, it's because they're scoring runs. Like
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's just that simple.
Right. And it kinda stinks too because, you have Willie Adames who looks like he's got the Powerball,
Yeah, he's
back here.
right. You've got some guys that are doing some things. I mean, I can take a very minor victory lap for myself with Mark Hanna,
Yeah,
someone
I was
who
gonna
I
just
say
bring
someone who I really wanted at the deadline, and he got off to a bit of a slow start, but now he's really picked it up.
Mhm. Yeah. I know Willie average-wise isn't that great, but I mean, that's kind of been his forte, right? More of a little bit
Yeah,
of a long ball
right. A little
sort of
bit more on
threat.
the power end for a Brewers team that does need power. Like
Mhm.
this is not the home run or nothing Brewers teams we've seen many times in the past.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Mark Canha in his last, heck, Brandon, the last 102 at bats, he's hitting 314. Last 50 at bats, 380. He's hitting 391 in his last 7 games.
Yeah, and he's hitting around 300 since coming to the Brewers. Like a good
Mhm.
on base percentage. Like just this is the top end of kind of what I was hoping for when he came here, and that he's not. I mean, he'll hit a couple home runs, but he's not a big home run hitter. He's just kind of a steady hitter. He has good at bats at the plate. Not afraid to get hit by a pitch. Like he's versatile enough. I mean, he can play first base. He can play a corner outfield. Like he's not going to
Mhm.
be a Gold Glover there, but you can put him there,
Mhm.
and he'll be fine. So I just think that's really kind of just adding. I think now as we've gotten on a little more, we're starting to see with Cannon to a lesser extent, but still Carlos Santana kind of them doing what we kind of hope they would, which is just raise the floor of the offense. It's just that you need
Mhm.
some of the people around them to kind of join in the fun.
One of them lately, Yelich,
Yeah, it's been
has
a
been
bit of a
struggling a little bit
it's,
here.
a little bit. Even the power we had seen, coming out of the All-Star break is kind of dried up for a little bit here. But
Mhm.
baseball is always one of those years where you look at say the end of the year and say Christian Yelich ends up hitting 280, just for example, on the
Mhm.
year. But when you looked at the breakdown, it's not like he hit 280 every month.
Right.
That's just how baseball is. One month you'll hit 320, next month you'll hit 200. You're just with everyone seemingly you kind of ride the wave a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah. If the postseason started today, this would be kind of how everything plays out. Okay. You've got in the American League, Twins taking on the Blue Jays. You got Seattle taking on Tampa Bay. That'd be an
That'd be
interesting
a fun
series.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Houston would be the 2. Baltimore would be the 1.
They'd be awaiting the winners of those series.
Mm-hmm. Then we've got no big surprise in the National League, 1 Atlanta, 2 Dodgers. But Brewers would be 3 taking on Arizona. Winner would take on the Dodgers. Then the Cubs taking on the Phillies in a 5-4. That one would be a fun one, I think, kind of too.
That would be interesting, yeah.
And then that winner would take on Atlanta. So just kind of an update where everything's at right now in terms of teams just on the outside looking in. And for a wild card, Miami's just a half game out. Cincinnati's just a half game out. Giants even getting swept by the Cubs. They're just 2.5 out from a wild card spot. And then American League, I mean, there's really just one team that still could be in it, and that's Texas, who's a half game out right now from a wild card spot.
It is kind of interesting though that kind of coming into the year, and then even as the year developed, kind of the view that many had about kind of the National League Central kind of being a bit down, but yet
Mm-hmm.
the Central could conceivably had 3 of the 6 playoff teams. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously they're guaranteed to get one with the champion, but you could also have 2 wild cards. So the half of the NL playoff field could be from the NL Central.
And one of them's not the Cardinals.
Right. I mean, imagine if you put that prop bet in at the start of the year, you'd probably win some coin
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird to think about it now, Brandon, but first half of the season, Pittsburgh was one of those teams that was in it.
Yeah, they got to such a hot start.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, they I mean they came out of the gates fire and they were like 20-7 or something like that, and
yeah.
then just kind of came back to earth. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy to think that like that one team that's really because that hasn't been there at all has been the Cardinals.
Mhm.
Like because they just got off to a bad start and just kind of stayed that way. But out of the 5 teams in the division, the Cardinals are the last one you would expect that would do have a year like that. But I think the other 4 teams are saying, well, that's just fine.
Right. Yep, exactly. All right, we only got about a couple minutes to the top here, so here's the game plan coming up next hour. We're going to kick it off with a little cream of the crop if anybody wants to send us your cream of the crops, you can do so. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or tweet it, Facebook it, all that good stuff. We'll talk some college football. Week 2 for the Badgers going up against Washington State. Any concern heading into this game, Badgers fans? Let us know. We'll get back to week 1 of the NFL season also kicking off, which means since we've got all these college games and we've got all these now NFL games, it's time to bring back the picks. Time to bring back the pick segments. So we'll do that coming up next hour as well. Plus predictions, playoff predictions, Super Bowl matchups, going chalk or going with some upsets sort of thing out there. Hopefully nobody's really overreacting too much from one game last
one
night.
way or the other.
But hey, if you haven't sent in your predictions yet, you can do so by hitting us up with that text, tweet, or Facebook message. But I will say the popular picks have been Kansas City, Philly, 49ers, Buffalo a little bit on there too. But those would be, I'd say, the top 4 right now. So, but we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. But we're going to kick it off with a little cream of the crop from the last maybe last few days. But again, if you want to play along with us, you can. 2 in, 1 to go. We'll be back in just a couple minutes after these news updates. Final hour kicking off on this Friday morning, September 8th. Big thanks, everybody, for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. We're going to get to some picks coming up this hour, both college football and NFL. Rest of the week one picks over there. I started off 0-1. I picked the Chiefs in our Pick'em Challenge. Brandon picked the Chiefs as well. Not everybody did in our Pick'em Challenge, so it's a lot of people still up. A good group, 1-0 to start off the season. So
The chance for a perfect season for you lives.
yes, yep, exactly. So before we get to all that, though, it is time for a little cream of the crop. All right, Brandon, who is your cream of the crop this week?
Well, I think I know where you're going.
I don't think you do.
Maybe I don't then.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought there was one that was going to be pretty obvious for you.
I think I know what you're thinking of, but I
Okay.
don't know if I'm going to go that way.
Okay, because I wanted you to go first because there's two I was thinking. I was just going to pick the one you didn't.
Okay. Should I go with the one I think you're thinking to see if that is the one that you're
Well-
thinking or if I'm thinking something differently?
Well, go with what you're going to go with, and I'll just go whatever one I'm not going to.
I was going to go Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I was going to go Joe Burrow because of that massive contract extension that he got, the highest paid player in NFL history. And I was going to turn it into a question. If you could pick any quarterback in this league to have right now, would it be Joe Burrow or somebody else?
Now, I assume you're also including like future stock too.
Yes.
Like, okay, because I still think the answer is Patrick Mahomes, but
Yep.
no, I mean, knowing that, obviously Joe Burrow in theory has more years left,
Right.
Maybe, but
Mhm.
I would think I would still go Mahomes, but I mean, I can't really argue if someone wants to go someone that's a few years younger.
Right. So mine was Joe Burrow, but were you thinking Dion?
That's what I thought you were going to go.
That's what I thought you were going to.
But I'm actually not. I'm
Okay.
going to go with the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Look, and obviously there's going to be, well, they didn't have Travis Kelce. Well, they didn't have Chris Jones. Well, you know what? The standings don't say that. When the time comes to get to the playoffs, it's not going to, if the
Yep.
Lions are 10-7, they're not going to say, well, they're 10-7, but technically that Chiefs get, no, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yep.
you beat the team that's in front of you. Like,
Yep.
and for them and for a team that's had so much hype coming into this year, and even, I'll admit, I'm one of the people, I'm like, well, I kind of need to believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And for them to come out and do what they did, and win.
And part of that too was the environment that they had to go into.
Yeah,
Super
you're
Bowl
going into
banner and-
Arrowhead is known for being a raucous crowd. Kudos for the Lions fans for turning up in good numbers there, and
Yeah.
for them coming out and grabbing the win. Like the fake punt early, like
Mhm.
just doing things that you're gonna kind of expect to see the Lions do.
Mhm.
Like, and just good on them for being able to go and do that.
How the whole course has kind of changed in less than a year because they started off 1-6, and there was talks about Dan Campbell being fired, and how that's and then they traded T.J. Hawkinson.
Yep, and they just
away.
kind of just went a different direction with some things, and they started to figure it out.
Yeah, so kudos to them. That's a good one there too.
Yeah,
So
just you know what, just
I don't know how many times we'll say the Lions.
no,
as
we
cream of the
don't.
crop,
So no,
yeah.
let's put it this way: I think both you and I are hoping not many.
Exactly. So we'll get to some NFL picks coming up here in a little bit. But let's make some college football picks right now, Brandon, with week 2 now on the schedule here. So obviously, Wisconsin getting the victory last week started off a little slow, which you could easily tell it's football season by going on social media.
Of course.
And seeing some of the reactions there and stuff.
After
but-
one game, I mean, Phil Longo and Luke Fickle are frost. Tanner Mordecai can't play. Like they're just bums. Right.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So let's start with a game that's actually tonight, Friday night. Illinois at Kansas. Who you picking?
I'll go Kansas.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Illinois ultimately won, they did have some trouble with Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Illinois, it's going to just come down to offense.
Yep.
What can they get out of quarterback? What can they get out of running game without Chase Brown? But I'm going to go Kansas.
Mhm.
These were a couple kind of out of nowhere fun stories last year, but I'm going to go Kansas.
I'm going to go Kansas too in this one. I just, Illinois, you're right. They did get squeaked by Toledo. And, it's always hard to gauge after 1 week for some of this
because
stuff
sometimes you'll have a team that goes on and has a great year that just for week 1, they kind of, it
Mhm.
just doesn't click right away.
Right. Yep. I'm gonna ask this one. 12th ranked Utah at Baylor. It's in Baylor, as I just said. So
I mean, I'm going to go Utah. Obviously, these teams are kind of coming off all opposite ends of the spectrum. Utah getting the win over Florida,
mhm.
Baylor dropping the early game,
Yeah, they lost to Texas State.
right again.
So,
Yeah, so. But I mean, I would have went Utah. I think regardless.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's any talk of Cam Rising's back yet at quarterback, but that Utah team is just. I mean, I think I've said this on the show before, but I think Kyle Whittingham's the most underrated coach in America.
You have said that. Yep.
He's just.
Mhm.
They're always right there.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go Utah.
All right. How about 20th ranked Ole Miss visiting 24th ranked Tulane?
I would have loved to seen this game a year ago.
Mhm.
When remember Tulane won not the Sugar Bowl, excuse me. They won the Fiesta Bowl, I
Yep.
believe. They beat UCLA or USC.
Mhm.
Soon to be Big Ten USC, but I'm gonna go Ole Miss in this one.
Mhm.
No Tajay Spears, obviously now for Tulane. Just some differences. I'm gonna go with the Fighting Lane Kiffins.
I'll go Ole Miss in this one as well. A couple more here. Texas A&M 23rd ranked at the U, Miami.
I'm gonna go with Texas A&M. I'm still not entirely sure what to make of Miami.
Mhm.
They're kind of back and then they're not. They're
Right.
back, so but I'm gonna go with A&M.
I'm gonna go Miami. Just that it's in Miami. I think it's gonna be a close one, but I'll go with the U. I'll go with the Hurricanes in this one. Iowa at Iowa State.
The Cyhawk game.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Iowa showed as much offense last week as they have in a while, even though they didn't quite get to the Brian Ferentz 25-point threshold. But I'm going to go Iowa State.
Ooh, okay.
I think that Matt Campbell was a 2020. They had such a good year. Matt Campbell was a hot coaching prospect, both in the pros and college. The last 2 years have been down a little bit. I think Iowa State makes a statement and wins that game.
Okay. I'll go Iowa. I'll go with a boring pick and go with the Hawkeyes with this one. So
Brian Balaga land.
Brian Balaga, Iowa. So yeah, I'll go with the Hawkeyes. Are they back? Will they be back after this game? Texas at Alabama. Brandon,
I just threw the horns down. Please don't find me, Big 12. No, Alabama. Last year that was Texas' shot.
Yep.
If not for the quarterback injury, maybe they get Alabama when they were playing in Texas. But this one's over in Alabama.
Yep.
Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Alabama wins. I think Alabama wins by a couple scores.
Weird how, Alabama is ranked outside, and after 1 week, they're now the third-ranked team in the country. So all that talk about, wow, they're the first time since, outside the top. And, they're number 3 right now. Alabama. I'll go with Alabama, too. If it was in Texas, would you pick Texas or still Alabama?
I think I'd still go Alabama, but I think it'd be like a one-score-ish game.
Okay. Is there another one I want to do before Wisconsin? I don't think so. No. Let's just do Wisconsin on here. Because, Stanford or USC, we're picking USC.
Right. We want to try to have ones that have a little bit of doubt in them.
Yeah. All right. So Wisconsin at Washington State here, Brandon. There's some Badger fans out there a little nervous because of what happened last year, right? I think that's fair to say. But it's a new regime, new players. Obviously, we still got players from that team that remember being involved in that loss. How do you see this one playing out? What is your pick for this game? Wisconsin at Washington State.
It is not the Apple Cup.
I'm trying to find a line here. I just know the matchup predictor favors Wisconsin on here, but
last time maybe like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
But I'm going to go Wisconsin. I think that they carry over some of the momentum from the second half with Buffalo. Now, that said, I think there's still going to be a close game. Like Washington's coming off an impressive performance against Colorado State. You said they won last year. Like this is a team I think they've done a good job of kind of reestablishing their identity. I think Cameron Ward's a good quarterback. He had some big throws last year against them, even if it was a bit of an up and down game. He was making the jump from I think like Division II. So, he's a lot more steady. Watson starting running back there. But no, I'm going to still go with Wisconsin, but I think it's a pretty close one.
The lines actually increased. It looks like here 6 on some, 6.5 on the other. So let's call it a touchdown.
Ooh.
Do you think Wisconsin covers?
Yes, but I'm going to say it's because they win by 7.
Yeah, that's where I was like, I think they, I think they win by 10.
Okay.
I think Wisconsin wins, and I think they cover
Gotcha.
in this game. But yeah, looks like it's gone up here a little bit. You know,
Interesting.
FanDuel's a 6.5.
I've mentioned the Palouse is a tough place to play. It's not a super big stadium, Martin Stadium, so and it's going to be loud. I mean, this is a prime time game. Well, it's not necessarily prime time in the Western time zone for them, but it's a nationally televised ABC game. So like,
yep,
there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this, even though it's going on the same time as Texas, Alabama. Like this is a big game. Obviously, this is kind of a big game. I mean, it's a big game for Wisconsin, but also for Washington State too. But yeah, I'll take Wisconsin by 7.
Maybe a chance for Washington State to say, hey, if anybody wants to pick us up for a conference.
Right. Hey, you know what? You joke about that, but you go and you beat a team like Wisconsin that's got a lot of buzz to it in this spot. Maybe.
Man, I mean, that was kind of some of the talk with Florida State last week, how they annihilated LSU, and there was some like, hey, maybe Big Ten now wants Florida State or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but hey, never know.
You never know.
We'll see. So, all right, those are our college picks. Ready to do some NFL?
I am, and I actually have my official pro football picking contest picks up, so I actually make sure that I'm coordinated.
So we both had the Chiefs. Both started 0-1 right away. So off to a fantastic start with this one.
But I do have all my picks for this week, which is an improvement on sometimes last year for the pick'em contest when I would forget about the Thursday night game.
If you haven't made picks yet, I mean, you're just going to miss out on obviously last night. But, we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll come down to one game. Don't know. But, hey, we'll see how it all plays out. So, all right, let's do the picks now. Let's go with Panthers at Falcons.
I'm going to go Carolina. I think Carolina's an interesting team because if Bryce Young is good, I think Carolina's a really sneaky team because of their defense. And I think Frank Wright is the right man for the job following Matt Rule.
The Frank Reich hire, and there is comparings to this, him getting going over to Carolina is almost to me reminiscent of Doug Peterson going to Jacksonville last year. Just similarities there, and I know Trevor Lawrence was already there for a year when Doug Peterson, but it kind of gives me those vibes.
Yeah, like you've got an established coach in the NFL that's taking over for a coach that was kind of in over his head. Like you're
college
getting this,
coach,
you're getting this fresh start. Like you said, Trevor Lawrence already had 1 year, but here.
Do we want to count that year under Urban Meyer for him?
I don't. If I'm a Jaguars fan, I don't blame you if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But no, I'm going to take Carolina in this one.
I'm going to go Atlanta. Atlanta to me is an interesting team. Last year for the longest time, they were still kind of in a playoff conversation. They got young talent, Bijan Robinson. How do you use them? Kyle Pitts, athletic, Drake London. So much is going to ride on Desmond Ridder though, at quarterback over there. So I think Arthur Smith is a really good coach. He's done a good job with what he's been given so far. This isn't Atlanta, so I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Plus, you've got Cordell Patterson listed as the Joker on the Joker on their depth chart.
How many more teams do you think now are going to start doing that?
Well, and you hear that a lot in college. Like I know
there's athlete in college.
There's athlete there's certain defenses where you hear they've kind of got like a special name, which basically they're kind of a playmaker. You hear some teams call them like the star, or like the basically it's a guy that they move around, which I think honestly is a pretty decent comparison for what they're probably gonna do with Patterson.
Yeah,
like
is football becoming positionless like the NBA?
And I'm happy to see that a team has found the way to utilize him because that was something when he was in Minnesota. I kind of saw you kind of see after a while was like. He's not a true receiver. He's not the best route runner, but you put the ball in his hands and good things happen.
Right.
And eventually, I think it was Bill Parcells was kind of the first, or Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick was the first one that kind of said, that said, hey, let's try my running back because he's a big dude. So that Atlanta, like they're a bit like Carolina in that if Desmond Ridder hits, if he's even just above average, that NFC South, any of those teams could win it.
I agree. I totally agree. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. You mentioned Bill Belichick. I got to say this, though. I don't know if you heard the news.
Revenge tour.
Revenge tour.
Going to be spending every waking hour at the facility.
He's a single man now, people.
Just him and Nike.
So he's the dog.
Him and Nike the dog.
So there's that narrative. I also saw one this morning that apparently there's some people concerned that she's going to go on Twitter and expose him for some stuff.
It's possible they had an amicable breakup, people. Like
possible.
that does happen in this world. People break up and they're like, you know what, I still really like you. We're just.
But don't you want it a little bit, Brandon, to be so there is some drama that that Bill Belichick's ex-girlfriend goes on Twitter, and then he gets asked about it just to see the reaction from him.
What's Twitter? Just to see him say what's Twitter,
or he's just gonna.
We're on it. Yeah. But all that possible energy would be making life a little bit easier for the Jets. And do you want that?
No. That's why I'm like, thank you for taking one for the team. I think her name's Linda, breaking up and upsetting Bill. So he takes it. Because I mentioned this yesterday, but for a fact, Bill Belichick will do anything to stop the Jets from going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So that's what you want too, Packers fan.
I said, now he's just going to be living at the facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or
he's got like a cot in his room.
Yeah, he can't go fishing right now with Jimmy.
No,
it's not fishing season; it's football season. So, all right, Houston at Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I know Odell's got an ankle thing going on, but this isn't Houston's year.
No, and I'm interested to see the new Baltimore offense with
Todd Monken,
just to see are they going to try to have a little bit more passing out of Lamar Jackson, which I think he can do.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to it here, but I'm very intrigued with the Ravens this year. We'll get to that coming up here in a second. Jacksonville at the Colts.
I'm going to go Jacksonville. I like the trajectory of the Jaguars. I think really highly of Trevor Lawrence. I think now that you've got him hooked up with a coach that actually knows what he's doing.
And remember the trade they made last year that didn't benefit them last year.
The Calvin Ridley trade.
Yeah. I thought that was a smart move.
I'm high on the fighting Shad Khans.
I'm going Jaguars too. Titans at the Saints.
I'm gonna go with the Saints, mostly because this one's in New Orleans. I think the Superdome will be rocking for week one.
Yep. New quarterback Derek Carr.
New quarterback Derek Carr. No Alvin Kamara, but
nope.
I think that Saints defense is really good, and I think they do enough to slow down the Titans.
I went Titans on this one. I got questions with the Titans. Tannehill, then is Will Levis going to be the starter eventually? Derrick Henry's still there. DeAndre's there now. Burke's the wide receiver. I guess I think the Titans are going to be a pesky team this year because of Mike Vrabel. A little bit. It almost kind of like a Dan Campbell vibe sort of thing.
Like sometimes those kind of those tough-minded, I want to classify him as an ankle biter coach, but you know what I mean? Like
kneecaps.
A lot of times those guys don't work in the NFL. Mike Vrabel's one that does. Mike Vrabel every year gets everything he's got out of that Titans team.
Yep, I agree. San Francisco at Pittsburgh.
I went the 49ers. I'm always a little leery whenever you get a West Coast team traveling for a noon game on the other coast. But I think San Francisco, now they got the Bosa stuff in the rearview mirror.
Yep.
I think this is a sneaky game for possibly being the best game of week one.
It is a very interesting matchup.
In that noon window. But I'm going to go 49ers here.
I went with 49ers as well. I know a lot of people are high on Pittsburgh this year. Kenny Pickett making a step. But I think, getting Nick Bosa back on the team is going to get another energy. I will say this, though. There's not a whole lot of talk about Brock Purdy this year. I want to see it again from Brock. If Brock Purdy doesn't play well, then there needs to be, I think, a conversation about John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. You factor in the Trey Lance trade sort of thing. If Brock Purdy, and it's evident that his play is holding the 49ers back, there's going to be some interesting conversations, I think, going on.
There is. They built a real, obviously a great roster there, but quarterbacks at one spot that they haven't quite fully clicked on, especially Brock Purdy is going to, kind of regresses a little bit.
Right. Yep. Tampa at Minnesota. Will Baker Mayfield usher in a new era with the Buccaneers?
Well, I end up having in a 16-team fantasy league, I have Baker Mayfield starting as my quarterback this week because I really messed up.
I was going to say, did you drop the ball or something on the quarterbacks?
Like 4 times. Every time I went to draft a quarterback, like 2 picks before I did, someone took him. And I'm a firm believer in you going best player available, not just saying, well, I need to pick a running back this round, and that's how you end up with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray as your quarterbacks.
Oh boy, Brandon.
So but with that said, I'm going to go Minnesota, but I think this game. I think this could be a shootout.
Really?
I think it could be.
Okay.
Because that Buccaneers defense still has some of those pieces from the Super Bowl, but there's still also some questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been a little banged up. And I think Minnesota's offense could be better this year, simply because it's year 2
under O'Connell,
against Kevin O'Connell. But I still don't know about the Vikings defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you feel better about Brian Flores, but the talent
I absolutely do, but you just don't know.
Right.
Especially like week 1. There's always some weird stuff that happens week 1. So I'm going to take Minnesota. I'm going to take Minnesota in a shootout.
Okay. I also have Minnesota winning this one. You're right. I mean, if Baker's on, Tampa still got players, right?
Right. They've got receivers. They can run the ball a little bit. Like, they're not, just because Tom Brady's not there anymore doesn't mean that they're bums.
Right. There's interesting players on this one. It's just so dependent on Baker or if it's Kyle Trask at any point in this time too. So Arizona at Washington. The road to a winless season for Arizona starts.
Tank Bowl starts now. I'm going to go with the Commanders.
I'm going Commanders on this one too, even though still find it funny the Cardinals won't officially announce a quarterback, even though it's been leaked already. That's going to be Joshua Dobbs.
Such a competitive disadvantage when you're going Joshua Dobbs or Clayton Tune. Like,
right. I mean,
that's basically, are you starting Dan Marino or John Elway?
I don't. If there isn't a more like, what do you want to say? More obvious tanking job than the Cardinals. It's
right.
It's them right now. So, all right. Let's go with the Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
Bengals.
Yeah, I'm going with the Cleveland with the Bengals with the Bengals. Yeah. Interesting to note. I don't know if Peter King said this was a game that's not getting a whole lot of attention that he thinks should get a whole lot of attention right now. So, because he's, as he mentioned, Joe Burrow's only got 1 win against the Browns in his career, but he can beat Patrick Mahomes. It's one of those weird things.
It's not Jared Goff's unbeaten against Patrick Mahomes.
That's true. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals as well. Packers, Bears will save. Let's go Raiders at the Broncos.
Broncos, because this game is a mile high.
Mm-hmm. I am gonna go with the Broncos too. The Sean Payton has been an interesting talking point.
He has, as you say, mentioned talking.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how him and Russell Wilson work. It's gonna. I think it could either really work well or it's gonna wear thin between those two. I think. I don't know if there's a middle ground.
I agree.
Yeah. I'll go Broncos too. Dolphins at the Chargers.
Another one that I think, like Niners, Steelers, could be a really fun one. I'm gonna go Dolphins on the road.
I'm going Dolphins too. I really like the Dolphins. I'll get to that in our picks later on. I like the Chargers too, but they're one of the best moves. I'll keep saying this in the entire offseason, players or coaches, was Vic Fangio going to the Dolphins. I will ride that one all season long. Revenge Bowl, Eagles at the Patriots. Will Bill Belichick get his revenge right away?
I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I'm going to go Eagles too. Rams at Seahawks.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks. The Rams have like 4 players I can name.
Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp ain't playing. It's his eyes just got big.
Tight end. What's his name?
Higbee?
Hey, Tyler Higbee.
Yeah. So you only named 3. Yeah, that's not that good.
It gets rough quick.
Yeah, it does.
Does Leonard Little still play for the Rams?
Cowboys at the Giants.
Sunday night.
Weird. This is like a tradition, unlike any other Cowboys.
It's fun, yeah. But actually, this year it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Dallas. Dallas on the road in New York City, even though it's in the Meadowlands.
I was gonna say it's. I'm going Dallas in this one too, and then Buffalo at the New York Aaron Rodgers.
I am gonna go with the fighting Stephon Diggs's Buffalo.
You're gonna go Buffalo.
I'm gonna go Buffalo.
going Jets in this one. I think too much hype and excitement surrounding Aaron Rodgers and that. I think they'll come away with a win. I think he's undefeated on Monday Night Football too. So, Packers at Bears.
Is that true?
Aaron something. Let me look it up here. I keep seeing the graphic like
Because
9-0.
I get that he, Monday Night Football isn't what Monday Night Football was as far as matchup goes when we were kids, but that's
Let me
just
see if
surprised I've never heard that.
here we go. Wait, no. I'll try to.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, Rodgers enters his first game as a member of the Jets, sporting a 9-0 mark on ESPN.
Okay, there it is. Okay,
So,
all right,
kind of.
all right, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
He goes 10-0. Packers, Bears.
I'm going Packers.
Ooh. Okay.
I think this comes down to the defense is making a play, and I have a little more faith in the Packers defense than I do the Bears defense, even with all the additions they've made.
23-17 Green Bay. I'm going that
I was going to
route.
say like 2017.
Yeah.
So
I think this is a game that you're going to see some sloppy play from the offense on both sides. This is a game that two quarterbacks have to prove that they are, not this game, but this season, in general, is going to be that two quarterbacks have to prove that they are starting quarterbacks for their current teams, that they can be. I think it's going to be kind of up and down on both sides, but you're right. Even with question marks surrounding Joe Barry and such, I'd still rather take Green Bay's defense at this point. So I'll go Green Bay, even though I am nervous about the fact that Jordan might not have his top two running backs or wide receivers. So, all right, there you go. With that, let's take a quick break, and then we'll do some playoff picks coming up in just a couple minutes. All right, continuing on this TGI double F. TGI, thank gosh it's Football Friday. How about that? I miss TGI.
I know we've had that conversation, but
I really miss it because Hudson's so into watching those shows. He's binge watching Family Matters now.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know, and I just
Did
wish.
you say has he gone through Step by Step?
Twice.
Okay, I thought you said he had.
Full House twice.
Good.
Boy Meets World once.
Okay. These are good ones.
Yep, exactly. I'm trying to think what would be try to get him to watch Hang with Mr. Cooper. Maybe that'll be the next one. But
There you
yeah,
go.
he's all on like Family Matters right now. So, but yeah, just like
Oracle.
getting a Happy Meal on a Friday and watching 2 hours of television because you couldn't do anything when you were in elementary school on a Friday night, really.
Right, you're not
at
going to
home.
go out and party or
No.
hang out with the friends, or you're not
And
playing
we didn't
football.
have the internet back in the
Ah,
day,
you're no
day.
internet pads.
Even before dial-up. Now everybody's like, yeah, remember dial-up? Yeah, I remember when there was no thing as
Right.
even dial-up.
I remember when
so-
dial-up was really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, good old days, Brandon.
Now I've got the America Online sounds in my head.
The box loading.
Yep.
Oh, well,
We're
we did
old.
have computers because Oregon Trail. So
That was
Yeah,
Oregon
Spacebar.
Trail and Number Munchers were our
Yep.
jam. You hunting
Spacebar.
buffalo?
spacebar.
I say you hunt buffalo over there. That's Oregon Trail's where I learned about dysentery
Oh,
and about do you ford the river?
yeah.
Do you caulk the river?
Caulk the river. Oh my goodness, I missed that game too. Yeah, arrows, spacebar, arrow, spacebar. Oh, you have died.
And then the fun. I mean, it was a real status symbol when you had to figure out the names of the people that were riding in your
Yeah.
group to Oregon.
Yes, exactly. I remember that too. Oh man, good. Oh, and then remember when you actually had to do work and you printed on the paper and you had to rip the sides off,
Oh, with a little like
perforated,
like
sort of thing.
perforated edges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, good times. All right, let's do some playoff
Let's
picks
do it.
right here. So let's start with the AFC Brandenburg. We'll do the divisions first. Let's go AFC North. Who you picking? I think, to me, this is the best division in football for depth purposes.
I think so. Because I thought about, you know what? I'm going to go Cincinnati. But I assume this is the direction you were thinking about. I was really thinking about Baltimore.
Mhm.
They're interesting to me.
I do have Baltimore.
Okay.
I'm going Baltimore to win. I know a lot is riding on, like, can they stay actually healthy for a year for a lot of their players? I think Lamar Jackson's happy now. Odell Beckham Jr. is there. Hopefully he's healthy. Zay Flowers, the rookie wide receiver over there too. I'm going to go Baltimore in this one, but I think this is also a Division II where you can see these teams beat up on each other, and records may not really signify that they're really good. It's going to be a black and blue division this year. So let's go AFC South.
Jacksonville.
Are you buying some of them too? Like even Pierre King, Pete Prisco, Jacksonville, they're 1 seed in the AFC right now.
Ooh.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the divisions they play in,
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier for the Jaguars.
To me, that would come down to their defense
Mhm.
because I think Trevor Lawrence has got some good weapons around him. I trust Doug Peterson as a play caller and a continuer to mold him.
Yep.
But it would have to be the defense before I went that far.
Yep. I do have the Jaguars, though, winning this division too. I think, honestly, they might be the easiest division pick in the AFC, I think.
Yeah.
No offense. And I think the Titans can be a little spoiler-ish, but I think it's just, again, Brandon, I mean, we're not that far removed when Urban Meyer 2 years ago was head coach of this team. And look what we're talking about now. People are saying a 1 seed. Doug Peterson and complete staff
The
has done
two
a
things you
fantastic
need in the
job.
NFL to succeed are a quarterback and a competent coach.
Mm-hmm. And they got it.
They got it.
I thought that they took a long time to make that hire, but I thought they made a great hire.
The process was sound. They did a
Mhm.
good job with that. They made sure they got the right person.
Yep. All right. Let's go AFC West.
I'm going to go Kansas City, despite
Mhm.
The hiccup last night doesn't sound like Travis Kelce's thing is going to be a long-term thing,
Right.
which for 2 of my 3 fantasy football teams, I'm very thankful for.
I said it before the game last night. I still believe it. I feel like Kansas City is a team that could be a little bit down this year. Like, I don't feel they're going to be as good as years past, but I still think there's 2 reasons why they're still going to win this division: Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I've never been a big fan of Steve Spagnuolo running a defense, and it still kind of makes me nervous that Matt Nagy is the offensive coordinator over there too. But as long as Andy Reid is still the man in charge, and you still have Patrick Mahomes, I still think they can win this division. So I do think it'll be a little bit closer, but I still got Kansas City. AFC East.
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. No concern about Stephon Diggs if there's anything.
I don't think so.
Mhm.
No, I just think that we're getting to the point where for Buffalo's kind of in that spot where they're almost in the kind of the put up or shut up time,
Mhm.
because now that they've been a premier contender for the last few years, like at some point you either get over the hill or you don't.
Yep, I agree. But I'm going Jets with my division pick. Again, I think this is a division that's going to beat up on each other a little bit here. I think the Patriots are going to be a team that could annoy teams, and I really, really, really feel like Bill Belichick wants nothing more than to beat the Jets twice this year. But I still think the Jets, the defense is, I think, what sets me apart with it. Yes, they got Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and all that, but that defense for the Jets is really good. So I'm going to go with the Jets winning the division. So 3 wild cards.
All right. Well, this is where I get a little bit unique as
Mhm.
far as maybe who makes it, but also who doesn't. I'll go Dolphins. I will go Ravens, and I will go Chargers.
Okay.
Conspicuous by their absence,
So
no
there's no
Jets.
Jets. All right. You and Luke Anthony are 2 guys not picking the Jets to go to the playoffs this year.
And this is what facilitates Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota next year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No.
I'm going to go with the Bengals, the Bungles, the Bills, and the Dolphins. I will say this. I don't have them
Can
in
you
a
hear
Super
me
Bowl.
now?
I can hear you.
Nice.
I don't know what that was about there. So we had
I got a little concern here.
I did too. I am going to go. I'll repeat that again now because we just got sidetracked there. I'm going to go with Bengals, Bills, and the Dolphins. I wanted so much. I'll tell you a little bit. I didn't pick them in my Super Bowl. I really wanted to pick Dolphins in the Super Bowl. I am really intrigued with this Dolphins team, but the only thing that really scares me is Tua. Jeez Louise.
What is going on here? Are we haunted?
I think so, man. Holy stuff's falling off now. Tua, if he stays healthy, this is a playoff team. But I really feel like he's one hit away. And that scares me. That really scares me. I love the Vic Fangio hire. It's gonna stink. I'm not a big fan of his. I think he tends to get a little overrated. But Jalen Ramsey's gonna miss a big chunk of the season. Him and Xavier Howard would have, I think, been the top 2 corners over there. We know Vic Fangio loves corners.
Right.
And Bradley Chubb played with Vic Fangio. I think Vic Fangio is going to put him in a good position. That was an awesome hire, and I'm a big Mike McDaniel fan. The swagger that he brings to that team, I think they feed off that. I really like the Dolphins. The thing that concerns me is Tua and his health. But those are my playoff teams. So
All
the
right.
one team I don't have on there is the Chargers, which I really want the Chargers in there.
But I mean, look,
There's going to be a couple teams I think
Yeah.
that miss out that are really good.
right. Right.
So.
The NFC or the AFC is just that way.
And I mean, look at Steelers and Mike Tomlin. They're always in it. He's
Mhm.
never had a losing season, for crying out loud.
Yep.
It's been 500, but they're going to be in it too. So, all right, NFC. As we continue to roll along here, NFC. Let's go West. NFC West.
I'm gonna go Seattle.
Whoa. All right. Over the 49ers.
Over the 49ers.
You believe in Geno Smith over Brock Purdy?
It's an interesting way to put it. But I like how they've continued to add to that offense. I really like Jackson Smith and Jigba being added in there when you've already got DK Metcalf.
And Tyler Lockett.
And Zach Charbonnet, who's a running back I really like. I think he could be a big part of that offense before too long.
They need another one to pair up with Walker, so Walker stays healthy.
That defense, I think, It's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So
They're already talking Legion of Boom 2.0.
I'm going Seattle.
Okay, interesting. I went with the 49ers, although, as I already said, I do have my I want to see Brock Purdy do it again. I think they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket right away, and they better get it right. Because if they don't, there's got to be a conversation about Lynch and Shanahan and such. So, but I'll go with the 49ers right now. NFC South. This is one
you can make. I think you can make a case for all 4 teams.
Mhm.
I really do. But I'm going to be the boring one and go New Orleans.
I went with New Orleans.
I think they've got the highest floor.
Mm-hmm. I went with the Saints for this reason only. When you look at their division, I feel like they got the best quarterback. Yeah, that was my tiebreaker, essentially. Derek Carr over Desmond Ridder. Bryce Young, I think, is going to be a good quarterback. It's just rookie year. I don't know. And then Baker Mayfield. I almost feel like if Tampa Bay had, like, Derek Carr, Tampa Bay would be an easy playoff team.
I agree.
You know, that kind of level. It doesn't take much, I don't think, for Tampa Bay to be up there, but that quarterback, I think, is going to hold them back. So, let's go NFC East.
It's hard for me to not pick Philadelphia. Like there's just their roster tough top to bottom. Even with another year, maybe some of those guys like Elaine Johnson getting a little older. Do they kind of lose it a little bit? But I don't think they're quite there yet.
Mhm.
I just think they have such a good roster.
Yeah, to me, it's Philly. But the one curious thing I will have, well, I guess a couple. One, Jalen Hurts isn't going to catch anybody by surprise anymore.
No.
And they did lose their 2 coordinators.
Eventually, the brain drain theory, where eventually if you keep losing coaches,
right.
Sometimes you see a little bit of a hiccup.
Right. So will that affect it or not? I don't know. I still think they got a ton of talent. And the fact they got flipping Jalen Carter in the draft to go with that defensive line, Philly loves defensive linemen over there. That has the potential to be the best unit, I think, in the league, that group, young defensive line over there too. So, but I'm going Philly. NFC North.
I'm going to go Detroit.
Okay.
I think it's really close. Like, this is another one where I don't know if you can make a case for everyone in the division, because I think it'd be tough to make one for the Bears, because I just don't think they're there yet. But I think Detroit wins. But I also think that I think both the Vikings and the Packers are within like 2 or 3 games. Like, it's close. Interesting going up. It's interesting up until about Christmas.
I am going with Minnesota to win the division. Justin Jefferson's still the real deal. I don't know if he'll have numbers like he did last year. I think Kirk Cousins tends to get a little too much ridiculed at times. You pair him now with TJ Hawkinson, got a new deal. You got a nice duo over there. We'll see with Addison, your new wide receiver over there too. Defense, Brian Flores is going to be an upgrade, but they did lose some pieces over there too. I still think it'll be a little bit better than last year, just because it was pretty god-awful.
I was going to say it can't really be too much worse.
Right. They're not going to have as many wins as last year.
Oh, I absolutely. My prevailing belief about the Vikings this year is I think they can be a better team that's got 2 or 3 fewer wins.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I went with the Vikings for my division. Now, wild card for the NFC. 3 teams.
Wild card, I'm going to go San Francisco, Dallas, Minnesota.
Okay. I went with Dallas, Detroit, and Green Bay as my 7th seed. The one obviously I don't have in there is Seattle. I'm just not a Geno Smith believer yet. I got to see it again. So I want to see it again. I'm not a big believer, but there's no doubt he's got receiver options over there. Until he shows it to me again, I don't know if I can trust Seattle right now. So your Super Bowl matchup, Brandon. What do you got?
Well, this may be a little bit interesting given my NFC picks, but my Super Bowl matchup, I'm going with the Chris Berman special. Buffalo, San Francisco.
Okay. All right. Not bad, man. Who do you have a winner?
I'll go Buffalo.
Okay. Ryan, that Buffalo circling the wagons.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
I did not want to go chalk in mine. It's very hard not to go chalk, though, especially when it comes to the NFC.
Right.
It's very hard not to. So you do technically have a wild card team.
I do.
Both of mine are wild cards.
Nice. I do like that.
I'll tell you right now, the hardest one for me to pick was a team coming out of the AFC, but I knew whoever I picked out of the AFC was going to win it. If that makes any sense. I went back and forth. So my NFC team, and it pains me to say this, Dallas.
I was sad. Once I heard that, I'm like, I know it's not Minnesota, so who? Okay.
I'm going Dallas, even though I'm going to get ridiculed for it. But I didn't want to go chalk, even though
I really appreciate that because it would be easy to be like, oh, it's going to be the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be
Eagles.
Philly, and that I don't understand. So
and even mine is still relatively chalk, but still.
Yeah. So I went because I do think there's tiers in this NFC. It's Philly. I think San Francisco's up there. And then I think it's everybody else after that. So I'm like, oh, okay, something stupid's going to happen. I'm just going to go Dallas. And then in the AFC, I really wanted to put the Dolphins in there just to really screw it up. And
Jimmy Johnson Bowl?
Exactly. I just no. So I went with Cincinnati. So 2 wild card teams because I did have Cincinnati as a wild card.
Okay, I like that. Oh.
So Dallas, Cincinnati wins. Joe Burrow gets a Super Bowl. So after getting paid.
So we each have a
night.
long-suffering AFC franchise and fan base getting their just due.
Yep. Interesting timing when that contract was announced last night too, huh? Right at kickoff.
Right in the yeah.
Jeez Louise. So don't tell me that they don't have that stuff planned. Come on. So I will say though, if it is Cincinnati and Dallas, drinks on me. And when I say drinks on me, it's just me and you, not everybody.
Well, I'll tell you what, then if it's Buffalo and San Francisco, drinks on me, and it's hams, baby.
All right, we got to take a break here and wrap up. We only got a couple minutes left, so we'll be back here in just a couple minutes. All right, just a couple minutes left. Then we're done for the day here. Reminder: Sunday morning, 10 a.m. We'll have the Green Bay tailgate show for a little Packer pregame show. We'll be launching on Sunday, 10 a.m. So set your radio dials or your alarms. You can also stream it at sportstalk1051.com or on the app or on your Google and Alexa home devices. All right, just a couple minutes left to the top again, Brandon. You will be at DeRay Field tonight.
Yes, Chippewa Falls Menominee football, the 111th meeting.
Really? 111? Wow.
They first played in 1895, the first year of Chi football, at least on the in the Chippewa Herald's records.
Wow.
So yeah, they've been playing since literally the first year they played football. I think that was their third ever game.
No kidding.
And
That's
it's
amazing.
one of it is, I believe, tied for like the 9th longest played series in state history.
Wow. Awesome. So Menominee coming in undefeated. I have
1 and 2 with a couple of very competitive losses. I think it's gonna be a really interesting game. Remember, it's also their Veterans Appreciation Night if you're coming out.
Yep.
If you're a veteran want to come out, free admission, get a chance to get acknowledged. Some other things. They're doing some fundraisers to help support homeless veterans. Also, a warm clothing drive for new and gently used warm clothing items.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we got all of our picks up there. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Man Cave podcast so you can check out our picks there, plus our interviews with Peter King and Rob Demoski from yesterday. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast, okay? One thing I really quickly want to do, we got only a minute left. I want to create something for the podcast, Brandon, that gets people to listen more, like an MVP, like the Man Cave MVP. So like I got to put I don't know if it's like a trivia thing in there or something. Dabbling on that. So if you come up with anything, let me know because I want to launch that quick. Or if anybody's got any ideas, like a trivia thing, like I think it was like Regis and Kelly, whatever the heck it's called now. They like quiz callers. We talked about this on yesterday's show.
Basically, to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah. Or do I do something fun?
Who was Dan's number 3 best talk show or game show host?
Oh, who was it? Oh, I know. I know. I think I know. Yeah, I do.
I hope so.
I know now. So I was like, took me a second there. I'm like, because we both had the same top 2s.
We did.
So that was on last week's podcast. All right. Enjoy the NFL week 1, this kickoff this weekend. I don't want to say kickoff because it technically did last night, but you know what I mean.
Football all weekend.
Yes. Every Sunday until February now. Think about that. Wow. All right. Have a good weekend. We'll be back Monday morning.